Hey guys and welcome back to my channel. This is part 5 of What If Ash Was Betrayed and Got a Harem. Before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing content, and also go and support the author, link in description. In town. The apprentice of Ash Ketchum walked around the vast town, taking in the vibrant and active sights of the sights and people. He hadn't watched Ash's battle due to not really wanting to, since he was confident that would win anyway. He instead really wanted to see more of the Indigo Plateau due to it being his first time being here. Zion has traveled to many different places all over the world, due to his job of watching over the legends of the world. Kanto, Johto, Hoenn, and even the Ore region are just a few of the regions that he has seen. Of course he hasn't seen every inch of each region, since he usually stays where the legends were and not much else. So getting the chance to explore was something he always enjoyed doing. As he walked, Zion did not take notice of the looks he was receiving from the various girls that were nearby. Many of them looked at him with blushes on their faces as he passed them, but how could they not? At the young age of 18, Zion had looks that could attract a lot of attention. His long hair that he normally kept free was tied in a ponytail, though it wasn't his idea. He didn't wear his black jacket, due it being cleaned, and Ash's Gardevoir will not listen to his protest, so he opted to wear a tight plain white shirt that left nothing to the imagination as his abs were easily noticeable. Without his jacket on, his toned arms were out for viewing pleasure. The X-shaped scar on his face gave him a roguish, bad boy charm, yet his black eyes shone with kindness and a protectiveness that made others feel safe. He wore light blue jeans along with yellow sneakers. Clipped around his waist were 6 Pokeballs, 3 on each side. Zion heard a small explosion to his left, causing his head to snap his head to the direction, and quickly placed his right hand on one of his Pokeballs by pure reflex. He used his aura sense to scope out what was going on, since everyone around him didn't seem bothered. He found out it was due to 2 trainers were having a battle in the nearby square, which was a common occurrence due to so many trainers being in one area at the same time. Zion sighed as he relaxed and put his hands on the back of his head. He usually had to deal with all manner of bad people in the world, ranging from evil organizations similar to Team Rocket, down to common poachers. While normally a calm person, he's always on guard, since it was his job to look after the legendary Pokemon and protect them. Shaking his head, Zion deactivated his aura sense as he turned his head back forward. Normally he would be walking with his Lucario by his side, but he is currently resting due to his earlier training session. So he was a bit on edge at the moment. As he continued his walk, Zion noticed that he was beginning to feel hungry. He looked around to find some place to eat, not feeling like eating at the Pokemon Center again. While looking around, he paused as a girl's voice out to him. Zion, is that you? Zion paused, since there shouldn't be many people who know of him, especially a girls. He never really interacted with too many people since he had to guard legendary Pokemon and couldn't risk their safety. Plus the only other girl he has a lot of contact with was Alex. Turning around, he was surprised that the one that called out to him was Misty Waterflower, forgetting that they had met already. Next to the orange-haired girl was Dawn Berlitz, May Maple, and Iris, Unova's Golden Girl, and one of the top contenders for the seat of champion of Unova. He also took notice of how strong her aura was, which was impressive for a non-aura user. Cursing at having to act again, Zion smiled and waved. Hey Misty, good afternoon. He waved at them as they ran up to him, Misty smiling back. Hey Zion, I didn't expect to run into you so soon, Misty said as she stood in front of the young apprentice. The water-type gym leader gave him a look over and blushed as she did so. She definitely liked what she saw. That jacket kept such a gem hidden from me. Misty yelled mentally. As she eyed his body gleefully, not noticing the raised eyebrow of the other 3 trainers. Not that I can blame her, May thought. He is one handsome man and those abs look like even steel would shatter on impact. Misty, Zion questioned, getting said girl's attention. Are you going to introduce me to your friends? Misty's face flushed in embarrassment as she realized that she has been staring. Oh right spry, she replied nervously before pointing to the other 2 female trainers. These are my 2 friends, Iris and May. Iris is in the tournament while May is here to cheer on her brother who is also competing. She pointed to said trainers as she introduced them. Zion nodded with a small smile as Misty introduced her friends, even though he already knew who they were, and waved at them. Hello there, my name's Zion, he greeted them. May and Iris smiled at how kind he was, as they greeted him too. So, what were you up to, Zion? Misty asked, curious if her new friend was busy. Zion shrugged in response. Not much really, just walking around before going to one of the stadiums to watch some of the battles. Well, we were going to get something to eat, Misty said. Why don't you come to join us? I am sure the girls won't mind. The water gym leader turned to her two friends who shook their heads, smiles on their faces. I wouldn't want to intrude, Zion tried to dissuade them. He really didn't want to be around the people who hurt his teacher so badly. His mother was one thing, his ex-friends were another. This failed however as his stomach chose this moment to growl loudly. This caused him to chuckle nervously since his hunger made itself well known. This caused the girls, minus Iris who just sighed and shook her head, to giggle since they were used to things like this. It seems that you're very hungry, so come on, May invited as she was eager to go eat and make a new friend. We found this really nice place that has food based on places like the Ore region. Sighing mentally at having no way out without starting a fight, Zion smiled as he nodded. Okay then, I'm in. Lead the way, ladies. Misty and May giggled as they walked, Iris following behind. As they walked, Zion only had one thought. How do I get myself into these situations? A few minutes later, we find the four trainers sat at a round table in a two-story, fancy decorated restaurant. Also from what he can tell, this was either very popular or was just having a good day. Charmeleon Charcoal Grill, a disconcerting name indeed, Zion hummed as he saw some satisfied people leaving the building. The people who were eating outside were enjoying their meals. The three trainers entered the building, ready to eat. The moment they entered, Zion felt his body go stiff, as the hairs on his body felt like they were standing on end. He began to sweat slightly as his danger sense went haywire, screaming at him to be ready. Something is very wrong here, he thought as his eyes darted around the room, trying to find the source of his worry. He began to expand his aura in an attempt to find the source, only to come up empty. I can't pinpoint where it's coming from. Seeing his strange behavior, Misty looked at Zion with concern, a look mirrored by May while Iris just looked at him strangely. Are you okay, Zion? Misty asked the aura student. Yeah, you don't look too good, May continued as she attempted to put a hand on Zion's forehead, only for said trainer to flinch away and take a step back. Retracting her hand, her concern raised. You look like you've seen a ghost. He didn't answer for a second as he made another attempt to find the source of his worry, but couldn't. Looking back to the worried face of May and Misty, he gave them a reassuring smile. I'm fine, just not used to big crowds yet. I traveled alone most of the time and rarely went into cities like this, so it's a bit overwhelming for me sometimes. He half lied since it is true that he rarely deals with places crowded by people. The girls nodded, understanding his reason as anyone would be nervous being so out of their element. Misty looked at him with a small smile. If that's the case, we could go somewhere else, if you want. Zion contemplated this for a second before shaking his head. I'll be fine, just was caught off guard more than anything. Let's go in and eat, I'm famished. He led the rest of the way inside. They quickly ordered their food after being seated thanks to a waitress that seemed to keep giving Zion a warm smile. They made idle chit-chat, except Zion, who tried to stay as silent as possible while sipping on a hot Kapua Coco, a drink from a place called Alola. He will have to ask Ash about that since he has never heard about it before. His plan to stay out of the conversation was a bust when Iris pointed her next question towards him. So Zion, what are you doing on this island? Are you a competitor? No, I'm not a competitor, Zion replied with a shake of his head. I'm here because of my closest friend who is the one competing. I'm not much of a battler. He knew he lied slightly on his part since he loved battling, he just didn't participate in any official battles. Misty gave him a strange look, finding that strange since she knew from their encounter that Zion was really good at battling. He was quick to react, smart, observant of both the field and Pokemon, and he didn't push his Pokemon too far. How come, Zion? You are good, good enough that I am sure you would have a place in this tournament. Zion shook his head as he chuckled lightly. No, I just had a extremely good teacher, he stated with a small smile, remembering all the good times he and Ash had while they trained. Do you just not like to battle then, Zion? Iris asked curiously. No, because I do enjoy the occasional battles, more like love them really, he replied. I just prefer traveling more than anything. I just learn to pick up a few tricks here and there. And make sure the great legends are safe and undisturbed, he added mentally. For the next hour, they all talked and ate, Zion only talking when addressed and only answering with as small as answers as possible. He had no issues with them, just that they hurt Ash. At the same time, his guardian side won't allow him to be mean to them even if he wanted to. He felt conflicted on how to act towards them, if he should continue being fake or just ignore them. He was afraid of how Ash will act if he were to found out about this, having not being used to Ash ever acting the way he has been lately. He will just have to be careful. So Zion, May addressed, getting his attention. You have traveled a lot, so I was wondering where you have been. This got both Iris and Misty's attention as they were curious too. They don't travel as much as they used to, so it's nice to hear about the different parts of the world. Yeah, there are many amazing places all over the place, Zion began as he gave a small smile. I have been to the mountain ranges of Kalos, the ruins of Sinnoh, the many vast forests of Johto and the caves of Hoenn. There have even been many places that I never expected to be, so much beauty. Really? Iris asked in excitement. Like where? Zion shook his head at her creation. I'm sorry, but I can't tell you, Zion replied, getting a disappointed pout from Iris. Please understand, Iris, these places have had little to no interaction, allowing them to remain undisturbed by humans and become a sanctuary for many different species of Pokemon. My wish is for it to remain that way for as long as I can possibly allow. Reluctantly, Iris sighed and backed down with a nod of acceptance at his words. She understood that there were many horrible people in the world that would do many terrible things to Pokemon to get what they want. She would never do anything bad to Pokemon, there's no telling who is listening in with all the people here. Thank you for understanding, Zion stated with a soft smile that caused a light pink blush to stain the girl's cheeks. Before Zion could say anything more, he felt it again. A dark and oppressive feeling, but this time felt more aimed at him. Like it was trying to crush him for amusement. He looked around with his aura and located it to be a few tables from him. He looked to his right and saw a man wearing a hoodie, glaring hatefully at him with red eyes. No doubt about it, that pure hateful feeling is all coming from him, Zion thought warily. But why towards me? And why does it feel like I know him from somewhere? He watched as the man stood up and paid for his meal and stood up. He watched the man walk out after giving the waitress a nonchalant wave, his hatred still obvious. He slightly glanced at Zion and smirked before leaving. Zion quickly stood up, catching the girl's attention. As fun as it's been, I need to get going. He heard Misty and May groan in disappointment while Iris looked curious. I promised my friend I would meet up with him and catch up before the tournament restarts tomorrow and takes up all his time again. He took out a good amount of money Ash gave him to enjoy himself, and placed it on the table. Hopefully this should be enough for all four of us. Whatever is left can go to the waitress, regardless of the amount. Bye girls. He quickly ran out, leaving the surprised girls at the table. Zion burst into the streets, keeping his aura sense on high alert. He felt the malice still and took off at full speed. Lucario, come out. He called out through his aura link. A Pokeball on his waist burst open as the blue jackal appeared, running next to his trainer. The two kept running until they ended up by another section of the forest. They appeared near an area that was filled with the scent of sea water, meaning they were near the sea. On a boulder sat the angry man from earlier, his arm on his knee and his chin in his open palm. His hood was down, revealing the man's tattooed face to the world. So you're this shadow, I presume, Zion said, not really asking since the man's description matched Ash's and Alex's words. A huge amount of malice, piercing eyes, a confident and snarky smirk, and the strange markings on his face. Shadow chuckled as he made to stand up on the boulder. The chuckle was dark and cold, but there was also no real amusement. His piercing blue eyes were filled with nothing but hatred. All of it directed towards him. I feel like he is trying to suffocate me with his hatred alone, Zion thought as he tried to brush off this feeling. This hate, it feels like a personal hatred, but why? This is my first time meeting this man. So what if I am Shadow? Shadow replied as his eyes began to glow slightly. Are you going to try and take in? Or better yet, use your power to take mine out? A black energy began to surround his left hand. But I'll make you work for it. He shot his arm forward and released an attack that looked similar to a dark pulse towards Zion and Lucario. Lucario, use Aura Sphere, Zion commanded his partner, who shot the blue sphere instantly, barely holding back the black attack. A small explosion took place, sending a powerful force of wind that blew away the surrounding trees. Shadow's smirk vanished as he looked enraged, glaring and growling at Zion and Lucario. A dark red power surrounded his body as his tattoos seemed to glow too. You pathetic waste of space. Shadow growled in rage and disgust. His body began to emit a powerful red light, the wind in the area picking up in a rapid pace. You need the aid of a Pokemon to fight me for you. Not even going to use your own strength and power. You cowardly weakling. He released the same attack, but this time it was much more powerful. Lucario, dodge it with extreme speed then follow it up with Aura Sphere. Zion commanded as an orb of aura, signifying protect, surrounded his body. Lucario roared as he took off in a blue blur, too fast for anyone to keep track. The attack from Shadow continued its path until it slammed into the protect. Zion was pushed back from the attack, which shocked him because that meant the attack was on par with his own. Just how strong is this guy? He thought as both attacks vanished. Lucario appeared beside Shadow with an Aura Sphere fully charged. He shot the attack at close range, hitting Shadow on his side, causing him to fly through the air. Doing a flip, Shadow landed on his feet and scrunched his face into a pure enraged expression as he growled more menacingly at the Aura Pokemon. Stay out of this fresh meat. This is between me and that failure you call a trainer. Why does he seem to hate me so much? Zion thought in confusion. From what he was told, Shadow was usually calm and in control. Here he is now, angry and wild like an angered Tauros. Why the sudden difference towards him? I will not allow you to hurt my friend, Lucario replied as he got into a runner's stance. He kept his senses on high alert since he knew Aura Sight would be useless against him. I can't guarantee that you will live should you continue with this foolish decision to get in my way, Shadow replied. His glowing eyes narrowed as he turned to Zion. Are you really going to let your Pokemon do all the fighting for you, weakling? Zion clenched his fists tightly, getting seriously angry at Shadow's constant insults and taunts. Channeling aura to his feet and legs, Zion used Quick Attack to appear next to Shadow. He lunged a fist forward, aiming for Shadow's head. The tattooed man took a step back, dodging the attack easily. He caught Zion's wrist and kneed Ash's student in the gut. He used his other hand and began charging a dark orb in Zion's face. Before he could fire the attack though, he had to let go of his captive and jump away to avoid an aura sphere shot his way. Shadow glared hatefully at Lucario, who was the one to fire the fighting type attack. I told you to stay out of this. And I told you, I will not let you hurt my friend, Lucario replied calmly as he appeared next to his master as Zion stood up. Thanks for the save Lucario. Zion thanked Lucario, who nodded as he refused to take his eyes off Shadow. Then you have signed your death warrant you mutt, Shadow replied angrily. He took off in a burst of speed, leaving a cracked earth behind, ready to kill his targets. He swung at Zion who blocked the attack with his forearms and swung a kick towards Lucario who ducked under it. Due to his body's position, Shadow twisted his hip and swung his leg downward into an axe kick. Surprised by the action, Lucario had no time to respond and was faceplanted into the ground. Snapping his other arm forward, he grabbed hold of Zion and flipped his captive before throwing him across the field. Zion was sent flying until his momentum was stopped by slamming into a tree. The only thing keeping his spine from snapping from the impact was the coating of aura throughout his body. The impact still hurt a lot though. Shadow faced his hand at Lucario and shot a blast of dark energy at the still recovering Pokemon. The explosive force of the attack sent the aura Pokemon back through the air. A tendril of shadows launched up and wrapped around Lucario's leg before slamming him back into the ground. This continued 2 more times until the shadows wrapped around his body, trapping him. What is this feeling? Lucario thought groggily as he tried to break free. It feels like pure death and anger is all around me. This isn't aura, this is something else entirely. Like I said, Lucario, Shadow said menacingly as a dark grin formed on his face. He raised his hand as dark and red chains began to come out of it, thrashing around dangerously. I'll make you regret your decision, as I tear your soul out of your body slowly and painfully. Shadow quickly sensed danger from behind him and jumped back to dodge as Xian appeared by his previous position, swinging his aura staff. As Shadow landed, he jumped away again to the left to avoid a powerful bolt of electricity. Looking to where the attack came from, he sneered at a Pikachu that was glaring at him with sparking cheeks. Another damn annoyance, Shadow growled. You would sink even further to use more of your lesser creatures, you really are nothing, Xian. All that hidden strength and you rely on aura and Pokemon to fight for you, such a disappointment. Shut up. Pikachu yelled out in rage. How dare you speak to my master such a way? I will make sure you pay for that. Thunder. The yellow Pokemon released a powerful bolt of electricity that rushed at Shadow, who merely stepped away as the attack rushed past. Shadow took off in high speeds, ready to crush Pikachu for getting in his way. Scowling in more rage, he stopped and brought his arm up to block a swing from Xian who tried to kick him. Raising his left knee, he was able to block a punch aimed to his gut from Lucario. He grabbed Xian's leg and slammed him into Lucario, sending both trainer and Pokemon flying back. Raising his hand, he shot another pulse of dark energy at them. Pikachu rushed forward with high speed as electricity surrounded him. Volt tackle. The yellow rat yelled as it slammed into Shadow, who jumped over the attack and released another dark blast that hit Pikachu head-on. Before Pikachu could hit the ground, Lucario appeared in a blur and caught the electric mouse Pokemon. As he landed, he jumped away as Tendril of Shadows tried to impale them. Using extreme speed again, Lucario vanished in a blue blur and appeared next to Xian who began to take out his aura weapon, his twin Tonfas. Giving the Tonfas a few practice twirls, he got into a stance and gripped the handles tightly. Let's go guys, he said softly as he and his two Pokemon rushed forward. Shadow looked unimpressed as he too rushed forward to meet his opponents. He ducked under a swing from the left Tonfa and jumped back to avoid a bone rush from Lucario. Reaching out from the side, he caught a mid-swing Iron Tail from Pikachu and threw the yellow Pokemon at Xian, interrupting the swing of the other Tonfa. Using that chance, Shadow kicked Xian in the stomach which caused both trainer and Pokemon flying back before turning and deflecting an aura sphere that was shot by Lucario. Just how strong is he, just how strong is this man? Thought both Xian and Lucario respectively. We barely got any hits in and the ones that did, barely slowed him down. Shadow slowly stalked forward as powerful black orbs formed in his palms. They both gave off feelings of death as they grew to the size of tennis balls. I will show you what true terror feels like. How it feels to be hopeless. Your pathetic power and weak strength will not be enough to stop me from destroying everything you hold dear. Xian stood up angrily, glaring at Shadow as his power began to rise. His aura seemed to vanish as his eyes changed from a pure blue to a bright pink with a light blue hue around it. The aura around him began to replicate his eyes as the air around him seemed to intensify. The local plant life also seemed to be affected as the grass seemed to go greener as his power grew in strength. Shadow stood there as the winds blew harder as he looked at the grass around Xian, taking note of some flowers beginning to grow at a rapid pace. So he's beginning to take this more seriously, is he? Shadow thought as his power rose slightly. But he's still relying on that pathetic aura of his. This is seriously getting on my last nerve. He shot the two orbs at Xian, who merely raised his black and white Tonfa. When the two neared, he rushed forward with both Tonfas in an X shape while flowing his power through them. He blocked the two orbs, but not without being pushed back by them. Roaring, Xian the attacks skywards. Looking up, he was surprised to find Shadow gone. Hearing a painful grunt from behind him, Xian turned in time to see kick Lucario into a tree. Channeling power to his feet, Xian took off in a blue blur and attacked Shadow who blocked the attack. Volt tackle, Pikachu, he commanded as he blocked a strong punch from Shadow. Pikachu ran forward as electricity surrounded the electric mouse Pokemon. Reaching the fighting trainers, Pikachu decided to trust in its trainer and did not hesitate. Seeing his electric-type Pokemon, Zion tried to spin kick Shadow. The kick was grabbed by Shadow easily, which was what Zion expected. Using his lower body strength, he lifted his upper body and threw his black tonfa downward between them, aiming for the tip to smash into Shadow's wrist. Shadow let go quickly and avoids the tonfa, only to be kicked from the back by Zion's other leg. Caught off guard, he was unprepared for Zion's legs to wrap around his head and pull him to the side. Right into the incoming Volt tackle. Pikachu, once seeing he made contact, released as much power as he could, causing Shadow to cry out in pain as an explosion took place. The electric Pokemon ran out of the smoke and stood next to its trainer, it wincing slightly from the recoiled pain. Zion looked carefully at the smoke, keeping his senses on high alert. That should definitely have hurt him, Zion thought as his eyes glowed a brighter pink. Moving quickly, Zion grabbed Pikachu and jumped away in time as a black dome of energy burst from the smoke and spread across the field. When the dome cleared, Shadow stood there angrily as his body sparked and his cloak was singed. His body held bruises mainly on his side. Shadow glared hatefully, as his eyes glowed a bright red and the air around him grew tense. Before he could go any further, an Espeon appeared next to him in a bright light. "What do you want, Espeon?" he asked in annoyance as his power calmed down. His eyes remained a bright red as the darkness crept off his body. "We have to head out," Espeon responded. "We have a job to do and you're wasting time with this fight. We have to move if we plan to get it done." Shadow hummed in thought before sighing annoyingly as he completely died down. "You make a good point, Espeon, besides I would rather not deal with the backlash." He looked to Zion and smirked. "It seems we will have to end our fight a little early, Zion, duty calls. You and your pathetic Pokemon get to live a little bit longer due to me not feeling satisfied at breaking you enough yet. You really think I would just let you leave after all this?" Zion yelled as his glowing eyes flickered. "Then you are more out of your mind than I originally thought." Extreme speed, Lucario. Shadow sighed, unimpressed by Zion. "You know what you need to do, Espeon." The psychic type nodded as he closed his eyes. Lucario appeared in a blur next to Espeon, a bone rush aimed at him. Espeon vanished in a bright light as the staff of Aura slammed into the ground. Espeon appeared behind Lucario and slammed the Aura Pokemon into the ground with Iron Tail. Then he used Psychic and tossed Lucario back to Zion. Lucario recovered in the air and fired an Aura Sphere at the duo, only for it to be countered by a Moon Blast fired by Espeon. When the two attacks collided, an explosion took place as it covered the duo in smoke. Acting quickly, Lucario fired another Aura Sphere at the smoke, causing another ground-shaking explosion. The trainer and two Pokemon waited till the smoke cleared, though Zion had a feeling. His gut feeling was right as when the smoke eventually cleared away, Shadow and Espeon were gone without a trace. "They got away it seems," Lucario said as he baked around. "What was that all about, Zion?" "I'm going to be honest, Lucario," Zion replied as he returned to normal. "I do not know." He looked to a spot where Shadow once stood before, taking note of the dead grass and flowers and decoyed soil. "But I'm going to find out. Let's head to the Pokemon Center to heal up, Ash needs to know about this." "That man was unusually strong," Pikachu said as he climbed onto his master's right shoulder. "He might be as strong as Ash as when he takes things seriously." "Either that or stronger," Zion replied as he began walking with Lucario. "Shadow didn't go all out, he's still hiding more. I don't like this." The trio made their way through the woods, the events of what just occurred fresh on their minds. Ash and group were sitting at a table as they spoke about Shadow and the dangers that he possessed to everything. Sabrina, Erica, and Roxy had to be caught up about what they heard. Erica already had an idea thanks to Jacob explaining a bit of it to her, but now she had a more complete picture. She was both angered and disgusted that such a horrible man existed. It took them all some convincing, but they believed them about the man after some coaxing and Sabrina confirming they were not lying through her psychic powers. "Unfortunately, we are stuck at the current moment," Ash said with a sigh. A cup of hot tea in his hands. "We can't go to the higher-ups without evidence and we can't just hunt him down due to his ability to stay hidden so well. What about talking to Cynthia and the other champions?" Jacob suggested as he drank his tea. "You, personally, are close to pretty much every champion except for Gold. I'm more than sure that they will hear you out. If that's the case, Erica began as she put her empty cup of moo milk to the side. Why not involve the Frontier brains as well? Aren't you good friends with them too? At the very least, I know you and Annabelle are close at the very least. That statement made both Sabrina and Roxy look at Erica questioningly. I normally would, Ash said as he leaned back in his chair. The issue with that idea is risking information about Shadow getting out. Information that is both inaccurate and incomplete. They need to be informed there is danger, but when we have enough to help them. I get that you're trying to minimize panic, but that idea is bad and will go badly, Jacob replied with a shake of his head. A psycho he may be, but he is also extremely strong with very strong Pokemon. Not alerting them will put them at a huge disadvantage. If by chance they fall to Shadow, mass panic will ensue either way due to such powerful trainers losing to him. The elites and champions are really strong, Roxy spoke as she looked at Jacob. What makes you think they will lose just like that? I'm not saying that they will lose, Roxy, Jacob replied. I am saying that in the case that they do lose, it will not do well for morale. We should avoid that scenario as much as possible, since Shadow is still an unknown. You got a point, Ash replied as he looked down in thought. Last thing we need is for Shadow to cause chaos and unrest amongst the people, it will make catching him virtually impossible. What do you think, Sabrina? To be honest, Ash, the psychic-type gym leader said. I have to agree with telling the others. If this man is as dangerous as you say, then an extra group of eyes would be most beneficial. It will also allow them to prepare, in case goes after them too. Ash nodded at their input. Yeah, you all make valid points. I guess I was letting my fears and paranoia cloud my judgment. We will alert the other champions and Elite Four members when we get the chance. Speaking of champions, Erica began as she turned her gaze to the side. There's Lance, Cynthia, and Gold. They all look up and were surprised to find the three walked into the cafeteria with a smile on their face. Ash got a grin as he saw and stood up to wave them over. Hey guys. Cynthia, Lance, Gold over here. His call made them look around before they spotted Ash. They all smiled, though Cynthia blushed brightly, and made their way to the table. Ash walked to his fellow champions to shake hands with the men and hug the only girl. It's good to see you all. How have you been? We have been great, Ash. Lance replied happily. The trainers are definitely strong in this tournament and it's made all of this a blast. Have been enjoying really interesting. Indeed, Cynthia agreed with a nod. I faced a trainer in the last battle that was able to take out my Spiritomb. Yes, it still knocked out his last Pokemon, but it was still impressive nonetheless. Yeah, me and my Pokemon have been having an absolute blast. Gold cheered as he pumped his fist in the air. Hitmonlee did his very best in the last battle I was in. The guy had a very strong Skarmory. I've seen some of your battles, Ash. It seems you have yet to take things seriously like you did with Lance here. Ash chuckled as he rubbed the back of his head. Yeah, you're right, Gold, he replied. You are very observant to have noticed that actually. The last battle I has was where I took it the most serious. Have any of them been on your main team? The young champion asked curiously. Ash shook his head. No, I haven't actually. I am giving my other Pokemon a chance to stretch their legs. I'll be using my major team later down the line. Speaking of the tournament, I just remembered something important, Cynthia began. My grandfather needs you to register your contact information. You are a still relatively new champion, so he needs to be able to contact you for meetings. Ash nodded at the beautiful blonde champion. I'll give it to you, so you could give to Mr. Goodshow for me, if that's okay with you. This way, you will be able to have my number and address too. His words made Cynthia's beat faster in joy as her smiling face blushed a bright red. The same goes for you all as well. We could find time to hang and train together. Kalos is great and relaxing place to visit now that Team Flare is gone. Team Flare? Gold and Roxy asked as they looked confused. Who are they? Team Flare was an organization that was stationed in Kalos, Ash explained. They hid themselves behind pretty words and good deeds. They wanted world peace, but the way they chose to achieve it was evil by all means. He paused to make sure he had their attention, which he did as they leaned forward. They wanted to complete this peace plan by eliminating more than half the planet of its population of both people and Pokemon. Everyone gasped in shock at such a twisted belief. Even Team Galactic, which have their own similar thoughts, boil it right down to their own greed at its core. These guys believe that they would be helping the world in all by destroying everything. That is insane. It was actually through stopping them that I met one of my Elite Four members, Suzaku, he continued. Suzaku was taken by Team Flare when he was young, around 4 or so from what the records had said. He seemed to bond with dragon-type Pokemon easily, even able to calm their rampages. Wanting to study this, they experimented on him, hoping to find a way to replicate or control such an ability. Most of the strongest Pokemon in the world being part dragon, such a power would be astronomical. So, what happened next? Gold asked excitedly, getting into the story. I had to storm the base with my Pokemon, Ash continued seriously. So, I sent Suzaku away, along a Trapinch and Bagon he befriended during his time there. As they left, me and my Pokemon stormed the rest of the base, ready to end the organization at the roots. Everyone nodded, understanding that. Take out the main brain of an organization and the entire thing will fall apart. Thanks to the help of my Pokemon, the police force, and the Rangers of Kalos, we were able to take them down. Every member, except for a few here and there, was caught and arrested. Lysander, the leader of Team Flare, was able to escape. He's been quiet since the raid though since he has completely lost face in all of the Kalos region. That is pretty cool Ash, Gold stated with a smirk. I had stopped a few Team Rocket grunts along with Team Aqua and Team Magma, though they have disbanded from what I know. Ash nodded with a smirk. You're pretty cool yourself Gold. He gave the young champion a thumbs up. So, does anyone know how much longer until? Ash, hey Ash. A voice interrupted him, making everyone turn around. When Ash saw who it was, a warm smile graced his face. The first person was Serena, dressed in her usual outfit that she wears with only slight changes. One of them being the ribbon which was usually blue, was now green. Next to her was another girl around their age. The girl had a very cute appearance and a confident aura around her. She wore an orange-blue headwear on top of her blue hair that slightly resembled wings. She wore a teal shirt with a long-sleeved, light blue shirt underneath. A simple orange tie finished the outfit. She also wore cyan blue shorts, long white socks, and orange shoes. Her brown eyes shone in excitement at seeing Ash. This was Miette, best friend and rival of Serena. Someone Ash considers close in his heart. A famous Pokepuff baker and Pokemon performer. Serena, Miette. Ash exclaimed as he ran and hugged the two girls tightly, making them giggle. It's so great to see you both. But what are you guys doing here? They each had competitions coming up, so he expected not to see them until he returned to Kalos. Actually, Miette responded with a smile. My competition was cancelled due to this tournament coming up. Serena's showcases were postponed since it would give others a chance to watch family and friends compete in this tournament. We wanted to watch you personally, so we had no problems with the idea and rushed here as fast as we could. She held tightly to his left hand. Yeah, we ran into each other on the island, Serena continued, not letting go of his other hand while sending a challenging look to Miette for a moment. We hung out and watched some of your battles when we got the chance. That's awesome, Ash responded as he smiled at them. If I had known, I would have brought you guys with me. I know Clement and Bonnie are somewhere on the island due to every gym leader from the regions being here. Serena nodded. Yeah, I saw his battle a while back and spoke to him yesterday. He has had a few close calls, but is doing well in advancing. Bonnie wanted me to tell you she said hi, since she visited your room and you were not there. Ash scratched the back of his head as he chuckles. Sorry about that, I rarely ever sleep there anymore. I am too used to sleeping in nature with my Pokemon, so I am usually in the forest with all of them. I could show you both where if you want. Both girls nodded enthusiastically. Hey Ash, who are they? Gold asked as the group at the table looked questioningly. Except for the girls who looked a little more territorial besides for Erica, and a slightly twitching eye. Oh, these are my friends from my travels in the Kalos region before I became its champion, Ash replied as he guided his two friends to the table. This is Serena and Miette. Hey, I know you. Erica squealed as she pointed at Miette in joy. You're the baking expert for Pokepuff. I use your Pokepuff recipe for my grass types at the gym and they absolutely love it. Miette smiled and nodded. I am glad that you're a fan, always nice to meet one. Erica nodded in joy, due to being an actual fan since her Pokemon couldn't get enough of the sweet treats. Plus the natural aroma of a freshly baked, grass treat Pokepuff was simply divine. I recognize that smile, Cynthia said. You're the Serena Yanvei, the famous Pokemon performer and a crowd favorite for being the next Kalos queen. My sister and I love watching your performances. I also know for a fact that you have a huge fan in Elisa of the Nimbasa City Gym. You are quite dazzling. Serena blushed in embarrassment, even though she is used to being recognized at this point. Oh yeah, I recognize her, Gold exclaimed with a grin. I heard all about her and even saw a few on TV. Myself. You are amazing. You know some awesome people, Ash. The raven-haired champion grinned wildly and nodded. Yeah, I really do. Serena is an old childhood friend of mine, back when I went to camp as a child. After an incident, we met up in Kalos and traveled together along with two other friends of ours. I met Miette multiple times throughout our travels and became close friends. They are both really fun and nice people. As he said this, he completely missed the bright red cheeks of the two girls. You're still so flattering, Ash, Miette replied playfully, recovering from her blush faster than the shy Serena. We also know about some of you, like Cynthia the champion of Sinnoh. I must say it's an honor to meet you. You are an inspiration to many, even myself though battles are not my main thing. We also know about you Lance the champion of Johto and Sabrina the leader of the psychic gym of the Kanto region. We have a gym leader like you, Sabrina. Sabrina nodded as she heard about Olympia, though not much since she doesn't know too much about Kalos. She knows Olympia is a fellow psychic and would like to converse with her during this tournament. So, does anyone know when our next opponent is going to be posted? Ash asked curiously. He wanted to know who he was going up against next. It's supposed to go up tonight, Cynthia replied. A message is going to go out to alert you. The machine's hiccup will be fixed. In fact, this is the last battle for 1vs1 battles. So, we will be moving on to the double battles. Ash asked excitedly and a large grin on his face. Ash loved double battles due to the chaotic, exhilarating adrenaline-pumping teamwork of both Pokemon. If both Pokemon don't trust in one another and have a chemistry of any kind, then you're bound to lose. It's also challenging for the trainer due to having to split their focus on 4 different Pokemon and the field itself. It's a huge testament to the skill and trust between trainer and Pokemon. Cynthia giggled at the exited Ash. He is so cute when he gets like this, Cynthia thought, unaware that the other girls besides Erica thought similar things. Yes Ash, it means we will be doing the double battles next. It will be interesting to see what the other trainers will be able to come up with. As the group talked, none of them noticed of the pair that was watching from a distance. Across the room near the exit to the lounge was Don and Brock who were waiting on his Pokemon's check-up. He may be a doctor, but it's still good to get a second opinion on their health. Ash, Dawn sighed sadly as she watched her friend talk happily without them. Why won't you listen to us? We are so sorry, Ash. Small tears fell from the coordinator as she felt Brock hold her shoulder comfortingly. We will get him back, Dawn, the old gym leader said sadly. We will get him to listen, we just have to be patient. After their battle, Brock believes he may have been a bit rash in the challenge of Ash. His old traveling companion was a champion, a much higher level than any gym leader. The pinnacle and face of a region's strength. He was not surprised by his loss in that battle. He could tell that Ash and Gardevoir were toying with him and Kabutops the entire time. It made him curious to see what Ash could do if he took the battle seriously. Let's go meet up with the others, he continued. We have to see them and think of a way to deal with Ash. Besides we have a bit longer before we know who is going to battle who. The blue-haired girl nodded her head as she gazed back at Ash for a split second longer and left with Brock. She really misses Ash a lot, from his goofy smile, to his hyperactive and sometimes annoying excitement. After what happened at Pallet Town, they believed that they should leave Ash alone for a bit. Give him time to think over their words. A few minutes turned to hours and hours turned to a full day. Soon they all began to worry when a day turned into 3 and Ash still had not been found. They quickly began looking for Ash as they realized they may have been a bit brash with their words. They looked all over Kanto, even the forest where Ash's Pidgeot was supposed to be, only to find it gone. Brock had gotten an idea and they all went to the fitness trainer that had Ash's Primip and found it gone too. At that point, the weighted realization crushed their hearts. Ash had run far away from them. In desperation and tears, they all began to search for him even more. Calling in all favors that they could think of to use to try and find him, but that failed. Too soon, they called off the search when 2 weeks had passed, and they still couldn't find him. They continued to travel and pursue their dreams, but they all agreed to keep an eye and ear out for their friend. They all realized their mistake in trying to end his dream, it wasn't right for them to do so. Half of their dreams got to this point because of Ash's help and encouragement. He had one bad league compared to his many successful accomplishments and they automatically say he is terrible and needs to give up. They felt terrible and wanted to earn his forgiveness and friendship again. Dawn wanted her best male friend back. The duo of Dawn and Brock made their way into a building with the sign of Battle Gymnasium. This is a building created for more enclosed battles which they are planning to use for mini tournaments for the younger trainers later. Many of the newer trainers come here to learn new techniques or battle styles. Max wanted to go here and see new people and trainers, maybe learn something new here. Plus, he didn't know much about Kalo's Pokemon, so he hoped to gain some knowledge about them here. Speaking of the young trainer, he seems to have found an opponent as his Fly-On, which had evolved during the tournament, hit a Golem with Steel Wing and knocked it out. Golem is unable to battle, one of the many different referees proclaimed. The winner is Flygon and Max. Max happily pet Flygon as the spectators cheered or were in awe of his victory. Flygon himself looked content at being pet by his beloved trainer. At the sidelines were Professor Samuel Oak, Professor Gary Oak, and Sillin. Brock and Dawn made their way to them and greeted them. So, it looks like Max is doing well, Brock said as Max gave pointers to his opponent who was a spectator for his best friend and brother who were participating in the tournament. Yes, young Max has taken his flavorful battle style to a whole new texture, Sillin said. He has kept his secret recipe hidden well and has only used a milder flavor that continues to overwhelm the competition. Dawn tilted her hair with a sweat drop, looking towards Gary for a hopeful translation. He means that Max has yet to use his full team and kept his best Pokemon on the sidelines. He has done well to use his Pokemon to max efficiency and keep his trump card for later. Does anyone else wish to challenge Max Maple to a battle? The referee asked the crowd as Max told him he could keep going. This made his friends smile and shake their heads in amusement. I'll battle him. A girl's voice rang out. Everyone turned around and Max blushed a bright red at his challenger. The girl that walked up was a brunette that reached to the bottom of her neck. She had blue eyes and fair skin. She also wore a dark teal bow in her hair. She wore a white sleeveless shirt under a dark blue dress with teal tie. She also wore knee-high socks and brown boots. She had red backpack on that had 3 Pokeballs on each side. She is so pretty. Max exclaimed mentally as he tried to control his blush. It only grew as he heard his Flygon chuckle at him. She looks so familiar, Brock said as he stared at the girl as she made her way to the challenger's box. I swear that I have seen her somewhere before. Professor Oak and Gary both nodded in thought, agreeing with the doctor. May I get the name of the challenger? The referee asked as he looked at the young girl. Are you a participant or spectator? Of course, the girl replied with a smile that made Max blush brighter than before. My name is Molly Hale and I'm a participant. Participant number 244. Brock gasped as he remembered her now. This was Molly, the same girl that caused the incident with the unknowns granting her every wish and desire, even bringing her dreams to reality. They even created an Entei for her. It was fake, but still created one that bested even Ash's Charizard. It seems she has grown into a beautiful girl since he last saw her. Are you ready to battle? She asked Max. We have about maybe 3 hours before I have to leave, so let's have some fun. She grabbed a Pokeball from the bag before pressing a button that caused it to activate and grow. Are you ready, Max? The referee asked, knocking Max from his thoughts and back to reality. Seeing Max send his Flygon back to the battlefield, Molly's smile widened, and she tossed her Pokeball upward. Ursaring, let's do this. The hibernator Pokemon appeared with a powerful roar that sent shockwaves through the air. Let's do our best, Ursaring. Ursaring smirked and nodded to his trainer before growling at the ground dragon type. Begin. The referee called out. Ursaring, hammer arm. Molly commanded as the normal type ran at impressive, for its species, speeds to Flygon. Dodge it and counter with heat wave. Max countered. Flygon moved up, barely dodging the attack. Don't let it get away, Ursaring. Molly yelled. Ursaring cancelled its attack and grabbed Flygon's tail before slamming the mystic Pokemon into the ground. Now hammer arm. Once more, Ursaring's arms glowed brightly as he slammed them into Flygon's side, eliciting a cry of pain. Flygon, don't give in. Hyper Beam. Getting back its pain, Flygon used its wings to right itself before firing the powerful and destructive blast at the hibernator Pokemon, who only crossed its arms to brace for the impact. The Hyper Beam hit with explosive force that shook the platform battlefield and threw Ursaring back. The brown Pokemon dug his claws into the ground and stopped itself. Now, use Focus Blast. Focusing its power between its paws, Ursaring fired the white ball of energy towards Flygon, who dodged the attack. Not wasting the opportunity, Max clenched his fists and gave his next command. Use Dragon Rush. Flying forward, Flygon surrounded itself in draconic energy and took the form of pure energy. The dragon gave a powerful roar and made the attempt to slam into Ursaring. Catch it, Ursaring. Molly countered. Ursaring shot its paws forward and caught the mouth of the dragon energy as it tried to chomp down on him. The normal type struggled to keep the mouth open, but it was getting more and more difficult as the hibernator Pokemon was being pushed back. Ursaring, coat your arms in your hammer arm. Following its trainer's orders, Ursaring's arms glowed bright to stop the attack, which stopped its skidding but was still struggling. Molly's Pokemon held out for a few more moments before its arms gave in and the Dragon Rush won. Slamming its mouth shut, another explosion rocked the field and slightly drowned out Molly's cry of worry. Hearing his opponent's worried tone, Mac flinched and looked to the smoke in concern. I hope Ursaring is going to be okay, Max thought as he saw his Flygon fly out of the smoke and hover in front of him. For a moment, no one made a sound as the smoke began to clear. Molly stood there in worry as the smoke revealed a black figure. She smiled in relief as she knew what was happening. You are such a show-off, she smirked. Show them what you can do. I believe in you, Ursaring. With a mighty shout, the big brown Pokemon blew away the smoke. Covered in cuts and bruises, Ursaring growled and rushed at Flygon as the crowd cheered it on. Too surprised by the Ursaring, Flygon could not move in time before Ursaring clasped its powerful paws around Flygon's arms. Ursaring, play rough, Molly commanded with a smirk. Glowing a bright pink, Ursaring pulled the dragon ground type in close and began pummeling it with powerful force. The pummeling ended when Ursaring backhanded Flygon across the field. The moment Flygon hit the ground, everyone could tell the mystic Pokemon was not getting back up. Flygon is unable to battle. Victory goes to Ursaring. The referee announced as everyone cheered in delight. That and Ursaring was strong. To hold back and take on a Dragon Rush was no easy feat. Wow, Max thought in awe as he grabbed another Pokeball after returning Flygon for some rest. Not only is she pretty, but she is good too. To be fair, Flygon went through several battles already and so was getting tired. Let's see what she can do against a fresher Pokemon. I choose you. Molly, we have to go. A female voice called, causing Max to faceplant out of surprise. Everyone turned to find Alex and her Umbreon standing at the entrance. She didn't have her normal coat on and instead wore a dark purple sleeveless shirt that hung tightly to her body. She wore black slacks that had a silver chain hanging on the left side. Her hair had a blue clip on the left side. She wore black fingerless gloves, like her brothers. Max and group instantly recognized her as Alex Rain, an Elite Four member. But more importantly, Ash's Elite member. We have to get going so we could surprise my brother. She continued. Your parents are already aware you're to be with us for the day. Okay, Alex. Molly replied happily. She turned to Max and bowed. I apologize, but I have to go. I've planned this since the start of the tournament. She quickly turned and made her way to Alex but was stopped when they all heard Gary call out to Alex. Said girl turned to the young researcher. May I help you? Though I can already guess what it is, she thought. Yes, actually, he said as he walked up, only stopping when Alex's Umbreon got in between them. I don't want any trouble, miss. I just want to ask a few questions. Normally I wouldn't mind that, Alex replied in a slight cold tone. But unfortunately, I am a busy girl and can't afford to waste time. Especially since I have an idea about what you want to ask, and these are questions I am not going to answer. Then how about a battle? Max yelled desperately. He wanted to talk to his idol, he was desperate. Like I said, I don't have time to waste. Alex replied, annoyed at their attempt. At least Delia got the hint and tried to learn about the current Ash. These fools wanted to rush Ash and expect him to be okay with that. She already almost lost his trust once, she was not going to push it. Besides, if we are going to battle, she continued as she turned and walked away with her Umbreon and Molly following. We will meet in the stadium, if you continue that far. So good luck to you all. The group watched as the two girls and Pokemon left the building, sad that they failed to get information on Ash. Hey, what about his other elites? Max asked as he joined the others on the floor. Maybe they can tell us where Ash is. I'm pretty sure that we would get the same results, Gary replied solemnly. For now, it would be best we keep our distance until we learn more. Best not to agitate them too much or else we will only make things harder for us in the end. Gary is right, Professor Oak replied with his arms crossed. Ash already wants nothing to do with us right now and he's been a headstrong young man. Let's try to give him a bit more breathing room. Everyone nodded in agreement, though Max was a bit more hesitant than the others. He wanted Ash back as his friend already, tell him all the things he has done and seen on his own journey along with the different friends he's made. Besides, we do have a very important matter that we need to bring up right now, Gary continued as everyone looked at him in confusion. The young oak got down on one knee and put his hands on Max's shoulders, confusing the young maple even more. A smirk formed on his face as he stared into Max's eyes. Our good friend here has finally found his first crush. This statement caught Max off guard as he blushed a deep red and waved his arms around in embarrassment. No, I haven't. What are you talking about? Don't try to lie, Max, Gary teased as the others chuckled. We all saw your blushing face throughout that short match, especially whenever Molly smiled. Everyone laughed harder as Max became a blubbering mess, trying his best to deny Gary's claim. As they all laughed, Professor Oaksmid wandered away as he thought about someone that has been missing from their normal group for a while. I hope you find young Ash soon, Delia, he thought somberly. I wonder where you are at right now. We will have to meet up soon, so you don't push yourself too much like you're no doubt doing. I'll bring it up at the end of the day if you still haven't returned by then. Forest clearing 3 hours later. We find Ash back in the clearing with his Pokemon, meditating as he awaited what to do next. After hanging with everyone at the Pokemon Center, he decided to head back to the forest. He invited the others, but the only ones to join him were Serena and Miette. The others had things they needed to do, reluctantly. They spent an hour and a half exploring the town and its shops to pass the time. Ash figured why not have fun since his time is a bit limited due to the tournament. After getting a message from Alex to head back to the forest, he went straight there with the girls and the bags containing different things he bought the girls and one box for himself. When they got there, Ash was pleasantly surprised to get a tackle hug from a grown-up Molly Hale. Ash cared about Molly like one would a younger sister, always checking up on her when she could. He even sent her a Phanpy egg from his Donphan, after getting permission from his ground-type Pokemon. He sadly hadn't kept up with her for a while until after he had adopted Alex as his sister. Soon after, he called Professor Spencer Hale and kept up with Molly again for a while. He had no idea he would see Molly at this tournament even if she was a battling prodigy. After hugging her tightly in joy, he played with Molly after introducing her to all his Pokemon and they all took a shine to the young girl. They all played for over an hour and his Gardevoir took care of Ursaring's injuries. Ash turned around to find Zion walk into the clearing and was surprised by his student's injuries. He ran up to his friend and asked if he was alright. Zion pulled Ash to the side and told him everything that happened between him and Shadow. Hearing what had happened to his student caused the dark feeling that Ash usually felt around his ex-friends to surface. His eyes began to darken slowly before he caught it and pushed it back. Ash excused himself so he may go and meditate to calm his nerves. It worked thankfully as he felt his rapidly moving aura slow down and the darkness seemed to fade away. He tried to use his aura to lock it down and hopefully keep it locked. I guess this will be the best that I could hope for right now, Ash sighed as it seems he couldn't banish the dark feeling from his body, its lingering grip staying hidden as best it could. As long as it stays in stasis, I should be fine. He got up to join the others before several alarms went off. Everyone looked at their beeping Pokédex to find out that they had a message from the different Pokémon centers. Hello trainers, the system is back up and the random generator has selected your opponent shall be along with the stadium you shall battle in. Thank you for your patience. I got to go then. Molly yelled out in joy as she read the message. I got to see who my opponent is then meet up with Papa and Mama for dinner. We will go as well, Ash said as he dusted off his pants. We have to head there anyway, besides I'm curious on how your parents are doing since I last saw them. Be nice to see them for a moment to catch up. He turned to his Pokémon before calling out 5 of them and returned them. Pikachu ran and sat on his left shoulder. The young Hale smiled brightly as she returned her Pokémon, only leaving out her Ursaring that wanted to walk around. They all, except Zion who decided to stay behind again, made their way to the Pokémon Center. When they arrived, the place was surprisingly packed with trainers and watchers alike. It took the group almost 10 minutes to get up front. Ash was surprised to see Mia and Tai up front, holding hands. Looking up, he wanted to chuckle at the irony of her opponent. Mia sees versus Bruno. Both Elite Four members, one of Kalos and the other from Kanto. And both were fighting-type specialists. This excited Mia as this was, to her anyway, her next trial to be the best. Bruno was hailed as one of the best fighting-type trainers in the world, his position as an Elite Four member being a testament to that skill. If she was able to beat him down, then she would be one step closer to being the strongest fighting specialist in the world. Ash could see that she was practically vibrating in place from her nerves and excitement. Ash also saw that Alex will be facing one of the old Kalos Elite Four members, Malva, who was a fire-type specialist. It's funny since it was Alex that took her spot in the first place, Ash thought as he saw his sister was excited to battle Malva again. Tai is facing a girl named Trisha and Delia is against Maxim. Who am I against? He trailed off as he found his picture and his opponent. He will be doing a 3 vs 3 battle at Stadium B, no surprise there. His opponent though will be one of the most ironic battles he has seen in a while. His opponent is going to be Gary Oak. As he gazed at the picture, Ash felt the dark feeling rush throughout his body, despite him trying to lock it up only moments prior. His breathing became rough as it took all he had to hold back so much dark rage. The dark aura burned through him like a wildfire burning through a forest. Ash, are you alright? Serena asked as she gently laid her hand on his arm. This caused Ash's head to snap at her direction, his eyes darkened slightly from the darkened energy that reflected how he felt. When seeing Serena's concerned face, the dark feeling retreated again. Ash shook his head to clear it. Yeah, I am fine, just a lot of aura signatures concentrated in one area. Kind of gave me a small but painful headache. That's one of your ex-friends, right? Miette asked next as she looked to the screen. Your old rival that decided to become a researcher instead of continuing his journey. Will you be alright? Yeah, I will be just fine, he replied calmly. Tomorrow is going to be an interesting battle. He felt Pikachu rub its cheek to his, causing him to scratch the electric type behind the ears. We got some preparing to do, buddy. The others are going to be excited for this. The next day, Stadium B. The crowd roared in excitement at seeing two strong trainers staring the other down. Both battlers were tensed up, both for different reasons. Gary was doing this in an attempt to get his childhood friend and best friend back. To Gary, this battle brought back memories of him and Ash always butting heads against each other. How they used to compete over everything and how Ash beat him in his last personal league. This brings back some good memories, he thought fondly as he gently gripped his Pokeball. Ash only saw this as a chance to get back at one of the traitors by knocking him out of the tournament. This would further prove to them how wrong they were to betray his trust. Just like Gary, he thought of all the times that they had argued or fought. competing over every little thing, which lead to Gary always insulting him and putting him down, making him feel small and stupid. This brings back terrible memories, Ash thought angrily. Let's see what you got after all this time, Ashy boy. Gary called out as he tossed the Pokeball, releasing a very powerful Electivire who burst out with a powerful shout. Electricity sparked around the Thunderbolt Pokemon's body as he pumped his fists. Ash looked unimpressed as he also threw out his own Pokeball and released his happily chirping Leavanny. Electivire vs Leavanny. The referee announced over the crowd. Begin. Leavanny, Razor Leaf. Ash commanded as Leavanny fired the sharpened leaves towards the electric-type Pokemon. Counter with your Iron Tail, then use Thunder Punch on Leavanny. Gary commanded as Electivire raised his two glowing tails to block the leaves as he charged forward. His two fists sparked with electricity as he got closer to his opponent. If you want to play this close then fine, Ash said as he crossed his arms. Use Leaf Blade. The grass bug type nodded as she rushed forward with her bladed arms glowing a bright green. The two Pokemon met in a powerful clash that sent a small shockwave around. The two struggled for a moment, but soon Electivire began to gain ground fast. Pushing the fist away, Leavanny swung with her other arm, but it was quickly blocked by Electivire's other fist. Electivire has more physical strength than my Leavanny, but it is definitely slower than her, Ash thought as he watched Leavanny dodge another Thunder Punch. Leavanny, duck and use String Shot on its legs. Leavanny dove under another electric fist and shot the sticky webbing towards Elective's left foot. It wrapped around it in a split second. Leavanny stood back up and pulled the thread, which caused the surprised Elective to fall forward, knocking him completely off balance. Use Iron Tail to keep it away from you, Gary commanded. I can't allow Ash to gain any form of ground against us. He's just way too unpredictable. The electric type launched his two hardened tails towards the ground behind him without looking, causing Leavanny to jump away to avoid the impact. The string was cut off thanks to the Iron Tail, freeing Electivire from her grasp. Damn it, I didn't see that one coming. Ash yelled mentally. I should have predicted that move, damn you Gary Oak. As Ash mentally raged, he didn't notice the dark feeling return with force. It quickly spread, slowly encompassing his core and infecting his aura. Leavanny, use Energy Ball. Ash commanded, his tone getting colder with each word. The bug grass type paused for a second, noticing her master's shift of tone. Ignoring it for the time being, Leavanny fired multiple energy balls at Electivire. Knock those away with your Brick Break, Gary commanded. Electivire's arms glowed a bright white as he swung his arms, blocking some of the balls but was quickly overwhelmed. Ash smirked darkly as he had a plan to take full control. Leavanny, use Razor Leaf and follow after it, make sure you keep them coming. Leavanny ran forward in high speeds, firing the Razor Leaf at Electivire. The onslaught of sharpened leaves hammered into Electivire, who was flailing his arms wildly in an attempt to block them, not having time to use Iron Tail to defend himself. Use String Shot on his arms then slide under him, Ash commanded. Following orders, Leavanny shot the bug-type move, which quickly wrapped around Electivire's left arm and ran around the electric type before sliding under his legs. This flipped Electivire before he was slammed onto his back. Now fling him up and use Energy Ball before slamming him back down, hard. Leavanny, though slightly reluctant due to his cold tone, followed orders and yanked the downed Electivire into the air and shot the green ball of energy. It traveled along the string shot and slammed into Electivire, before being slammed into the hard earth. Give it time to recover, use Leaf Blade and don't let up, Ash commanded. Leavanny's arms glowed green before she rushed at the slowly recovering electric type. This is strange, she thought as she slashed Electivire over and over. Ash is being uncharacteristically brutal here. Plus, our bond seems to be weakening over time. Are you okay, Ash dear? She redirected that last question to her trainer through her aura, but got no response. Electivire, blow it away with thunder. The electric type released an electric blast that not only threw the nurturing Pokemon back, but destroyed the ground as well. Leavanny recovered and used her arms to backflip away and get back to her feet. Not going to lie, Ash, that actually hurt a lot. I would rather not get hit by that, she said through their bond as she took a fighting stance. Overpower her and keep your control. Thunder Punch. Gary yelled out as Electivire rushed forward. Fine, I'll just leave him unable to counter, Ash smirked darkly. Leavanny, evade and rush him with Leaf Blade. Don't get in a power match. Leavanny felt her aura connect to Ash's and looked in confusion at both what she felt and heard. The usual warmth she felt when she and Ash connected auras was no longer there. It felt cold and full of anger. She even felt it try to influence her aura quickly, to a point she tried to cut their connection on pure instinct, but all she could do was hold it back. What worried her the most, she couldn't understand her trainer at all. So confused and distracted, she had no time to dodge the thunder punch which slammed into her gut with powerful impact. She yelled in pain as Electivire continued his onslaught of electrifying punches. Leavanny, what are you doing? Ash yelled mentally, angry that his Leavanny didn't follow orders. Dodge by ducking and use X-Scissor as a shield so you can get away. Leavanny quickly dodged the next fist that was aimed at her face. She wasted no time and used X-Scissor, just in time to block another thunder punch. Using that split second, the bug grass type rolled away and jumped away from the powerful Electivire. Clenching his fists tightly, Ash growled out his next orders through his aura. Leavanny, use Energy Ball and aim for his feet. Leavanny once more could not understand what her trainer said through her aura. All she heard was her name and, aim for his feet. She assumed he meant the last attack she used, so she charged forward while readying her X-Scissor. What are you doing, Leavanny? Ash yelled mentally in frustration. I said to use Energy Ball, you useless bug. Electivire, counter with Iron Tail and then hit it hard with Brick Break. Gary countered. What is going on here? Ashy boy is not battling like I have seen him, he's out of it. And his Pokemon keeps attacking without a command. Electivire used Iron Tail to trip up the bug grass type easily and slammed the glowing arm into the side of Leavanny's head and sent her flying. Grab her quickly and unleash your thunder. Gary commanded. Electivire's tail wrapped around the airborne Leavanny's leg and unleashed the devastating electric type attack before being thrown back to Ash. The moment Leavanny cried out in pain, Ash's eyes widened in horror as the struggling Leavanny got to her feet. Leavanny. Leavanny, are you alright? Please answer me. Leavanny looked back to her trainer, her eyes wide. Ash, is that you, dear? I can finally hear you clearly again. The bug grass sighed in relief as she felt that dark feeling from Ash receding as their bond returned. Ash's usual warmth seems to be back. What do you mean? Ash asked in confusion. I have been giving you orders through my aura this entire time. I know, Ash dear, but I could not understand them, she replied as she turned her gaze back to Electivire, who stood ready. Let's talk about this later, Ash dear, right now we have a battle to win. You can't continue in your condition, Leavanny, Ash spoke in worry. You can barely stand, let alone, but he paused as he felt the nurturing Pokemon's determination through their aura bond. Fine Leavanny, have it your way. Let's take him down. Leavanny nodded as she charged forward, a wide smile on her face. Let's win this. How do you expect to beat me when you're already so hurt? Electivire taunted as he readied himself to counter whatever they had planned. Leavanny, use String Shot and cover the battlefield around them. Ash said, the dark tone in his voice becoming less apparent quickly. The grass bug type began firing the stick substance around Electivire while staying out of reach of her confused opponent. Alright, what are you up to, Ash? Gary wondered as he watched the nurture Pokemon run and jump around his Pokemon while releasing the sticky web-like substance. Whatever it is, I best stop it right here. Use Thunder to blow it all away. The Thunderbolt Pokemon crossed his arms as he charged up before shooting his arms outward and released a devastating electric blast that tore away at the ground and surrounding String Shot. A thick cloud of smoke and debris covered the battlefield and Pokemon, making it difficult to see the battling Pokemon. Now Leavanny. A smirking Ash commanded as another thread of the sticky bug-type attack rushed out and wrapped around the Electivire. When the smoke cleared, the audience and Gary were shocked to find Electivire trapped another String Shot. Many of the sticky webbing wrapped around his body, completely immobilizing him. A line of the thread connected to Leavanny's mouth. Let him have it, Energy Ball. Ash commanded as Leavanny fired the green ball of energy down the thread and smirked as it slammed into Electivire. The electric type cried out in pain as green sparks of energy traveled across its body. Come on Electivire, break free with thunder. Don't let him, pull him forward and knock him off balance. Then nail him with another energy ball. Ash commanded quickly, knowing Gary would try that again. Before Electivire could charge up for another powerful blast, he lost concentration and his footing when Leavanny tugged him forward with a strong tug. He cried in pain as the grass-type attack slammed into him and sent him sliding across the ground. Now pull him in for a leaf blade. Ash yelled as Leavanny reeled Electivire in, dragging him across the ground once more. Electivire, try to use Iron Tail to get out of there. Gary commanded frantically. The electric type's tails glowed before crying out in pain once more, which made him lose concentration again. Gary and Electivire weren't expecting Leavanny to run forward and slam the leaf blade into them, unknowing that Ash gave the order through his aura. Show him how the ground really feels and hit him with X Scissor, Ash said calmly, staying focused on the Pokémon than his opponent. He could feel that darkness still there, waiting for him to slip back into it. Leavanny jumped and spun, using the momentum to lift the heavier Pokémon, and slammed Electivire into the awaiting earth. She quickly followed suit with a powerful X Scissor that kicked up some dust but not enough to fully cover them. Seeing that the consistence of attacks withered away her string shot, Leavanny jumped away just in case. Everyone watched, surprised, as the cut and bruised Thunderbolt Pokémon stood back up. Ash sighed as he assessed the situation. I should have expected as much. Electivire was easily one of Gary's strongest and durable Pokémon, but it also looked like it can't go much longer. He turned his attention to his heavily panting Leavanny. Not that we are any better. The next few strikes will end this for one or both of them. Ash felt Leavanny link their aura, so he gave his Pokémon his attention. Let's finish this off with one final charge, much like in the old days, Ash dear. I'm feeling nostalgic. Ash smiled softly as he nodded. Leavanny, full power leaf blade. Leavanny cried as her arms glowed bright green once more. They also grew in length as she charged her power more, and the energy blades also became sharper. Electivire won't be able to dodge that so easily with her speed, so let's take this the next best way, head to head. Gary thought as he clenched his fists. Thunder Punch full power. The Thunderbolt Pokémon clenched his fists tightly as powerful sparks roared to life. The sparks hit the ground and sparked more sporadically as he gathered more power to them. Now charge, charge. Both Gary and Ash commanded as the two Pokémon took off at high speeds. They ran past each other and spun on their heels, using the momentum to increase the power of their strike. The powerful leaf blade slammed into the equally powerful Thunder Punch. Normally Electivire would have the edge in this struggle, but thanks to the angle Leavanny was in, the electric-type move slid past but just barely over her head. The bug grass type swung her other arm and slashed Electivire across the chest but did not notice the Thunder Punch in the Thunderbolt Pokémon's other arm slam into her head. Leavanny hit the ground hard while Electivire collapsed backwards with a soft thud. Both Leavanny and Electivire are unable to battle. The referee as the audience cheered and the trainers returned their Pokémon. Send out your next Pokémon. This brings back memories, right Ashy boy, Gary said to Ash, who only narrowed his eyes. It seems that you and I are still even after all this time. Ash clenched his fists tightly after hearing his ex-friend speak to him. Equals us. You never treated me like we were one, always taunting and making fun of me. No, I will not accept him as my equal just like he never has. Ash shook his head to rid himself of the darker thoughts as the dark aura tried to return. I have to end this before I do something I may come to regret. Ash looked up again when a white flash caught his attention and saw Gary had released his Umbreon, who was staring him down. The young champion shook his head as he smirked at the duo. You really think we are even, Professor? Ash asked as Gary frowned at being addressed so formally by someone he perceives as his best friend. If I remember right, Electivire was one of your strongest Pokémon you own. Leavanny, on the other hand, while powerful, is nowhere near my strongest team. Let me show you just what one of my best could do. This should most certainly bring back some memories for you since you seem so fond of it. Pikachu, you are up. The mouse Pokémon jumped off his shoulder and ran to the battlefield, his cheeks sparking. This is nostalgic, it feels good to be able to battle. Ash smiled warmly at his starter. It's just going to be the same as every other time, Pikachu, Umbreon taunted, not noticing the frown on Ash's face as he glared at the dark type. Do you think you can keep up with me? Pikachu sighed before he glared hard at his opponent, making Umbreon slightly nervous. You will just have to see for yourself. Both trainers nodded at the referee, who returned the nod and raised his flags. Begin. Umbreon, use quick attack. Gary commanded, knowing that Pikachu was a tough opponent, so he had to take control as early as he can. Umbreon tensed his legs before taking off with blurring speeds. Spin with Iron Tail, Ash commanded, going into his champion mode. Pikachu's tail glowed and hardened as the electric type leaned on his back and spun at high speeds. It looked like a lesser version of a Euro ball. The two Pokémon collided, but the spinning momentum gave Pikachu more than enough power to overpower Umbreon and throw the dark type back. Umbreon stayed on his and lashed out with a dark pulse once he heard Gary's next order. Dodge it, Pikachu, and use Electro Ball, Ash countered. Aim the attack low and be ready. Pikachu laid flat as the dark pulse flew over him. The electric mouse snapped its tail forward as the electric type attack was flung just parallel to the ground. Gary's eyes widened as he quickly realized that his Umbreon was going to land on top or in the path of the Electro Ball. Quick attack as fast as you can. Umbreon stretched outward in an attempt to reach the ground. The body of the Moonlight Pokémon was lit by the electrical light for a brief second before he vanished in a black and yellow blur, barely dodging the Electro Ball. Thunderbolt, Ash commanded as he looked to the left, not at all bothered by Umbreon's speed. Pikachu instantly fired the electric-type move towards the direction looked. Umbreon appeared, confident after moving at such incredible speeds, only to be caught off guard by the direct hit of Thunderbolt. The Dark-type cried out in pain of the powerful move. Umbreon, try and push it back with Dark Pulse, Gary commanded. Umbreon pushed through the pain as she charged through the pain and released the powerful Dark Pulse. The Dark-type attack pushed the Thunderbolt back with a lot of difficulty. Umbreon cancelled the attack and jumped away in time to avoid the attack. Iron Tail quickly, Umbreon, Gary commanded. The Moonlight Pokémon spun on his heels as his tail hardened in time to block an Iron Tail from Pikachu. Use Toxic. Ash looked undeterred as he saw the purple sludge gather in Umbreon's mouth. Twist your body and throw Umbreon away. Then use Electro Ball to counter. The mouse Pokémon smirked as he followed Ash's orders exact. The sudden movement surprised Umbreon, who was pushed by his opponent. The Moonlight Pokémon twisted around and fired the Poison-type attack only to be blocked by the Electro Ball. The explosive impact covered both Pokémon before dissipating quickly. The crowd let loose a deafening roar of excitement as the two battling Pokémon glared at one another. Many began to see just how outmatched Umbreon seemed to be as Pikachu was able to counter his every move. Get in close, Pikachu, Ash thought through their aura bond. It's time to show Gary just how much damage we can do. Right. Pikachu replied as he charged forward at high speeds. Umbreon braced himself as he grit his teeth. Pikachu is so much faster than he used to be, and that's saying something. I don't know how many of those hits I can take it's starting to really affect me. Use quick attack and keep moving. Don't let Pikachu get in close. Gary commanded. Using this, I can buy some time to formulate a strategy. Facing Pikachu head-on is bad due to it having more power than my Umbreon. Plus, the fact that it also knows Volt Attack is bad for us too. He watched as his Pokémon zipped across the battlefield in a black and yellow blur. Umbreon would appear in one spot before vanishing and appearing in another. Pikachu, use Thunderbolt to the left, Ash commanded through his aura again. Pausing his run in a split second, Pikachu fired a devastating Thunderbolt to what seemed a random direction. Gary, having remembered Ash doing this earlier, decided not to risk it. Umbreon, jump back now. In a blur of seconds, the Moonlight Pokémon appeared and jumped back in time to avoid being hit by the Thunderbolt. The Thunderbolt caused an explosion that pushed Umbreon back as he cried in pain before shaking it off. Not bad, Professor Oak, Ash smirked mockingly, his aura darkening for a second before returning to normal. Let me take things up a slight notch for you. Use Thunder on the battlefield. Pikachu's eyes narrowed as his cheeks sparked violently before a powerful burst of electricity that tore the ground and singed the stadium walls, which were a good distance away, as it spread out. Umbreon, who had nowhere to run, cried out in pain as the thunder coursed through his body. The crowd was blinded by the bright light from the thunder, many having either to look away or cover their eyes. When the light finally died down, everyone was shocked as the battlefield was now mostly charred soil and rubble. What was more shocking was that Pikachu didn't even look winded after that attack. On the hand, Umbreon laid sprawled out and unconscious. He couldn't even attempt to hold out as the blast was too much for his already worn-out body to handle. Umbreon is unable to battle. Victory goes to Pikachu. Please send out your final Pokémon. The referee announced over the loudly cheering crowd. He was thankful he kept his distance as the blast made his hair stand straight from the static, at a distance. Made him realize that blast was extremely powerful. As Gary returned Umbreon, Ash gazed bored at his opponent. Do you see the difference now, Gary? The Pokémon I use on my main team are on a whole other level when compared to what you have been facing thus far. If you still don't want to accept it, then send out your ace. Send out your strongest and I'll take it down as well. Pikachu stood there, his cheeks sparking. Gary took a deep breath, calming his nerves since he knows Ash is trying to get a rise out of him, not like he wasn't trying to do the same. Okay, so maybe we are not on the same level as we used to be. I should have expected Pikachu to be stronger than ever. Taking out his last Pokeball, he kissed the top of it. You're my last shot. Go Blastoise. He tossed the ball and the powerful water type started for Kanto burst free with a powerful roar. I expected as much from him, Ash thought as he smirked. I should use my strongest. No. I'll save him for later as a surprise for the higher tier trainers. Pikachu, come on back buddy. I know who I want to use here for him. Pikachu nodded reluctantly as he jumped back to his favorite spot on Ash's shoulder. Said trainer grabbed a Pokeball off his waist before tossing it. May the aura guide you, Lucario. The ball burst open as the most gorgeous Lucario that the crowd has ever seen revealed itself calmly. Its silver fur practically sparkled in the sunlight. Its red, intimidating eyes glared as Blastoise, unnerving the shellfish Pokémon. The crowd was so shocked by the Lucario, that everyone was silent. Wait, I recognize that Lucario, Gary said as realization struck him. That's the Lucario that was with that Satoshi guy that we ran into when we arrived on the island. Then his eyes widened when he began to realize why the name sounded so familiar to him earlier. It was Ash's middle name. How in the world did I not see it before? Gary mentally berated himself. He rarely ever used his middle name, but it should have been more obvious. I guess simple was enough to get by everyone. So, you figured it out, Ash said with a small smirk. It doesn't really matter to me at this point. Show us a good time, Professor. Begin. Use Rapid Spin, Blastoise. The shellfish Pokémon ran forward before withdrawing into its shell and spun at extremely high speeds, racing towards the calm Lucario. Dodge it, Ash said simply. Lucario jumped over the spinning shell, not even bothered by the stinging winds. Use Bite Blastoise. Blastoise shot out of his shell, lunging at the airborne Aura Pokémon. Throw him off with Blaze Kick, then follow it up with Aura Sphere. The silver-furred Lucario left foot lit up in flames before doing a backflip. The flaming kick hit the Blastoise's jaw, subsequently closing its mouth. Then he quickly fired the charged-up blue sphere at Blastoise's head. The explosion from the attack pushed Lucario back, who landed gracefully onto the ground while the shellfish Pokémon hit the ground with a loud thud. Blastoise, use Hydro Pump. Keep it away for now. Gary commanded, seeing that Ash's Lucario was too agile to fight up close. This will hopefully give me time to come up with a better plan. Your plan isn't going to help you, Gary, Ash thought. Lucario dodge and use extreme speed. Lucario spun on his heel and dodged the water-type attack with ease before vanishing. He reappeared with his foot in Blastoise's gut, who was hunched over and dry heaving in pain before being launched back by the force. Follow it up with a combo of extreme speed and Aura Sphere. Blastoise regained his bearings before Lucario appeared in front of him again, this time with an Aura Sphere fully charged. Lucario slammed the attack into Blastoise, who was sent into the arena's walls, hard. Lucario, Return and stance, Ash commanded smoothly. The aura Pokemon nodded and jumped back to be in front of his trainer and took his usual fighting stance. Those were only love taps. Blastoise should still be ready to continue battling, Ash thought as he watched his old rival's strongest Pokemon get up. There has got to be a way around that, Lucario. Gary thought, frustrated as he watched his starter stand to his feet. That's when Gary's eyes widened when he noticed the band on Blastoise's right arm. That's right, I still have that. He grabbed the keychain on the left side of his belt buckle and clutched the orb on it tightly. Ash smirked as he realized what is about to happen. So, he has the ability to Mega Evolve his Blastoise. It wasn't there for only show. Question is, did they have the skill to hold it together and use the increased power from it? Let him go through with it, my friend. Let's see if he can make us have to take him more seriously. Lucario nodded at the command as Ash said the last part through their aura bond. This is our last shot, Blastoise, Gary said as his stone began to glow. Blastoise, Mega Evolve. Both Gary's and Blastoise's stones glowed brightly as the two energy streams released and waved around. Once the two streams touched each other, they stayed locked and Blastoise glowed brightly and became hidden by a bright light that made many look away. When the light died down, Blastoise's appearance had been altered quite a bit. The biggest change was that instead of two medium-sized cannons on his back, Blastoise now had two smaller cannons on his arms and one large one sticking out his back now. The shellfish Pokemon had successfully become Mega Blastoise. Activating his aura sight, Ash couldn't help but be impressed by how much stronger that Blastoise got through the evolution. They have a strong bond, but nowhere near as strong as ours. Give us your best. You're not going to evolve your Lucario? Gary asked. He was more confused when he heard Ash chuckle at his words. How about you make us have to Mega Evolve? Ash said in a mocking tone. You worry about your Pokemon and I'll worry about mine. Use Bullet Punch. Lucario's fists glowed before hardening and he disappeared before reappearing in front of the Mega Evolved Pokemon. He unleashed a barrage of punches that connected with his opponent's gut. He finished with a punch to his cheek that made Blastoise skid back. Rapid Spin Blastoise, Gary called out as his Pokemon corrected his balance. Spinning fast, Blastoise rushed forward with much greater speed than before. Stop him, Ash commanded through his aura. Lucario nodded as he caught the spinning Blastoise with both hands. The aura Pokemon skidded across the ground before using more power and stopped moving altogether. This shocked everyone in the stadium, as Lucario stopped an attack from a Mega Evolved Pokemon with his bare hands. Don't hesitate, Hydro Pump. Gary yelled the moment the starter was stopped. The Mega popped out from his shell as he fired the powerful attack from all three cannons. The attack hit directly and pushed Lucario back and was slammed into the wall on the other side of the arena. Gary smiled, happy to have gained some ground against his childhood friend. How do you like that, Ashy boy? Regretting your decision yet? Ash felt his anger, not at his Pokemon getting hurt, but at the traitor's tone and him calling him by that nickname again. This time though, Ash did not feel dark feeling rise again, he was just angry. He took a deep breath that calmed his nerves as he gazed back to the battlefield with a bored look. Lucario, stance, Ash spoke out, surprising Gary at his relaxed command. A silver blur appeared in front of Ash before it was revealed to be a calm Lucario who looked fine. The wet fur being the only signs that he was even hit by the hydro pump. He took the same stance that he was in before. You got anything else, Professor? We are not even trying on our end. Gary clenched his fists in frustration as he thought over every plan he could think of. Blastoise, hydro pump and spread it out. Be ready to strike. The shellfish Pokemon fired the attack, moving his two arms so a wave was created. The hydro pump created a slight powerful wave that also began to destroy the ground. Ash and Lucario were both calm at the approaching attack. That's it. Ash whispered. Cancel it out with Aura Sphere. Lucario charged the attack in an instant before shooting it forward. When the Aura Sphere contacted the wave of water, it exploded and caused the water to harmlessly disperse. Ash chuckled at the looks of surprise on everyone's faces. He knew that normally Mega Evolved Pokemon outclasses most other Pokemon, but it was nothing to him and Lucario. His Aura partner was just that strong and was already used to battling Mega Evolved Pokemon in his base state. Extreme speed and send him upwards, Ash commanded though his aura. Like before, Lucario vanished from view. Blastoise was broke from his shock to find himself in pain from his chin and sailing upwards. Lucario appeared above the ascending Mega-Evolved starter in a blur of speed. Send him back to the earth, Ash smirked. Bone Rush. A familiar staff of blue aura appeared in the silver-furred Pokémon hands as he swung the attack downward. The Bone Rush slammed into the head of the shellfish Pokémon, causing Blastoise to cry out in pain as he was sent towards the ground. The ground shook upon impact as a cloud of dust and debris was thrown about. Lucario flipped before he landed softly, in a crouch position before taking a battle stance again. When the dust finally settled, Blastoise was on his back, completely unconscious. A bright light shone once more, but now Blastoise was back in his original form. Blastoise is unable to battle, the referee announced. Moving on to the next round is champion Ash Ketchum. The crowd cheered at yet another glimpse at Ash's true power. It was amazing to see a Mega-Evolved Pokémon get dominated by a non-Mega Pokémon with little to no effort. Gary returned his starter in complete shock, not believing just how much Ash now outclassed him. He couldn't even counterattack with his last two Pokémon. Just how much stronger was Ash now? What other monsters were on his main team? He looked up to see Ash walking up, his Lucario by his side. Gary reached out and shook his hand with Ash, wincing when he felt his old rival's grip tighten. Lucario snapped his head to Ash, feeling the darkness in Ash try to rise and take control of his master before it was pushed back moments later. Settling at a more manageable level. Plus he wasn't too worried due to Pikachu being right on his shoulder, ready to calm Ash down should he start to lose himself. Ash quickly let go before he wordlessly turned away and made his exit from the battlefield. Ash just wanted to get away from Gary as fast as possible, before his anger becomes too much for him to handle. I really need help from the others, Ash thought as he left. This aura is getting difficult to control. While the young champion walked away, the ex-best friend of Ash clenched his fists in frustration as he too made his way off the battlefield in the opposite direction. We will get you back, Ash. I swear it, man. We will make it up to you. Tunnels after the battle. Great job out there, you two, Ash complimented his two Pokémon. I knew it would be a cinch for you two and Leavanny to take him out. Pikachu rubbed his cheek to Ash's happily while Lucario nodded with a small smile to his trainer. Lucario frowned and gazed towards his partner. Are you sure that it was wise to reveal me and Pikachu so soon? Lucario asked. Especially me, since Oak has most likely made the connection between you and your Satoshi persona. The others will no doubt know by the end of the day. Yeah, I believe it doesn't matter if they know, Ash replied as they entered the streets. They will not change my mind, I want nothing to do with them. As for you two, it's not like we revealed you guys at full power. You both held back a lot and neither battle lasted long enough to be an issue. Lucario and Pikachu nodded, seeing his point. Now let's go celebrate you guys' victory and an apology to Leavanny. I don't know what happened there, but I will figure it out. Once more, the Pokémon nodded. What is happening to me? Sensing the distress from his friend, Lucario placed his paw on Ash's shoulder to gain his attention. We finished our match pretty early, we might be able to make little Molly's battle. No, Molly's match happened second, Ash replied shaking his head. But we could meet up with her and watch the others. He gained a grin at the thought of spending time with his sister figure. Ash, hold up. A woman's voice called out, making him turn around to see Serena running up to him. The two trainers smiled as they embraced. You were great out there, Ash, she complimented as they separated, though Serena wanted to hold him longer. Your Pokémon seems to have gotten stronger since I last saw them. Though I'm surprised that you used Lucario so early on. Figured you would wait towards the end. Good job out there, by the way, Lucario. Lucario smiled as he bowed lightly with his paw on his pike. Thank you, Serena, he thanked her through his telepathy. It is nice to hear such kind words from a girl that is so close to Master. He turned his eyes towards Ash with a teasing grin. What's that supposed to mean, Lucario? Ash questioned the aura Pokémon with narrowed eyes. And stop calling me Master, dammit. I swear, you can be as bad as Flat Chest sometimes. This only caused everyone to laugh, making Ash chuckle along his friends. As fun as this is, Pikachu began when he calmed down. We still got to go meet up with Molly before she gets too far. Ash nodded as he invited Serena, who agreed to go right away. The two made their way to Stadium A where her aura was still located. Both happy to be by the other's side. Unknown lab. Walking through a door that led to a descending staircase was a young woman in her mid-30s. She had shoulder-length pink hair that was tied in a ponytail, which seemed to be colder than the stairs she walked on. She wore a white and black lab coat over her hourglass figure. She wore blue heels that made an echoing click with each and every step. In her hands was a clipboard and numerous files. Next to her was a Mawile, which had a long scar on the top of its second mouth, and behind her was a Sizer and Weavile. This was Lenora Gritz, a well-reputable model and researcher. She was also an admin of a hidden organization and a hidden hater of this current world. She reached the end of the staircase as two automatic doors slid silently to the side, revealing a long white hallway. Lining the walls were cages with the bars comprising of highly powerful lasers, strong enough to keep an enraged Steelixan trapped, each filled with Pokémon. At the end of the long hallway was two giant keystones, and a curled-up Serperior between them. Lenora walked the hallway. Weavile, check on cell block C and make sure he knows not to try anything. Sizer, check on cell block E and make sure the subject is still alive. The two Pokémon silently and obediently left to follow Lenora's orders. Lenora stopped walking in front of a cage that held a large Tyranitar. This Tyranitar was littered with cuts, bruises, burns, and other injuries across its armored body. The bigger-than-normal Tyranitar was curled up with a metal collar around its neck. The burns glistened menacingly across its arms, tail, hands, and neck. Lenora looked at one of the folders that read, Tyranitar, Cell Block B. Lenora hummed as she read. Total of 25 attempted escapes, none successful. Burns from the escapes from the laser grid yet seemed still willing to try again. Punished many times for its failed attempts, reported total of 30. The 5 extra from being defiant and ignoring orders. Was a mother before its child died, and is unable to handle conditioning. Immensely strong with its attacks, Hyper Beam, Stone Edge, Earthquake, and Screech. Says here, your ability is Sandstream. High defensive abilities and strong attack power, but not much going for you in speed. Seems you're quite the veteran battler as you have used Screech as an attack and a defense. Not much in finesse though as you only have your brute strength, but that won't be a problem much longer. Lenora turned the dial on the machine on her left wrist before pressing the button as it glowed green. The LEDs on the collar around Tyranitar's neck glowed green. Shortly after, Tyranitar let out a moan of pain. Tyranitar stirred and awoke, staring at Lenora in the eye menacingly as it stood up groggily, its body slowly filling with rage. Not as fierce as when you were put here originally, Lenora stated casually. Seems you need just a little more pushing before you finally learn your place. Mawile, be ready. The little Pokémon nodded and jumped into position, ready for battle against the near-broken Pokémon. Lenora leaned over and turned the laser grid off, and the Tyranitar wasted no time, charging a Hyper Beam, ready to erase the disgusting human in front of her. Mawile, Iron Head. Make it close its mouth and learn, Lenora commanded, as the steel fairy took off, already surrounded by the metallic aura of the attack. Mawile slammed into the Tyranitar's chest, causing her to hunch over in pain, but mouth still open, ready to attack. The second mouth snapped upward and closed around Tyranitar's, snapping it shut. Slam it down, Lenora commanded as Mawile pushed off from the giant rock dark type's chest. With a strong turn of the neck, Mawile lifted Tyranitar off the ground, with a surprising show of strength before slamming the giant Pokémon on his back. The impact made the whole room shake, awakening more than just a few Pokémon. The Serperior slithered quickly over, and the two keystones floated, revealing themselves as Spiritombs. The three went to subdue the Tyranitar, as it started getting back up, though hesitantly. Lenora raised her hand, stopping the guard Pokémon in their tracks. It's under control, she said as she crossed her arms. Mawile, surround it with double team and run around her. Show her what happens when one tries to resist our power. The steel fairy flashed a bright light before multiplying, surrounding the enraged Tyranitar. Tyranitar, confused by the illusion, looked around in agony at the circle getting tighter and tighter around her. In a last-ditch effort, Tyranitar let out a screech, powerful enough to knock the Mawile away, if it wasn't for Lenora commanding Mawile. Iron Head, is all she commanded to the Pokémon. Mawile surrounded herself with the metallic aura and charged at the Pokémon's chest. The screech was barely stopped by Mawile's sheer force, and the steel fairy slammed into the Tyranitar's side, causing her to lose her breath and knocking her onto her side. Tyranitar grasped her side, gasping for breath as it cried in pain. Mawile continued the assault, repeatedly beating into the sides, back, and any exposed part of the dark rock type's body. After several hits the Tyranitar collapsed, not even trying to defend itself in an act of submission, yet the assault persisted. After several more devastating hits, the repeated noise in the background finally made its way to Mawile. Lenora had been screaming, "Halt!" The Mawile dropped the aura and moved back to Lenora, not even strained nor winded by the pressure the assault put on her. Lenora kneeled near the defeated Pokémon. "Do you understand now? What happens to those who defy us?" She almost seemingly whispered to the Pokémon. "You would not be in such a pathetic and pitiful state if you just listened. You were such a deadly force, and now you're more pathetic than the droppings that one gets on their shoes. Now obey, or you will continue to learn." The Tyranitar raised its head, mouth open, hyper beam charged and ready to fire in a last-ditch effort to kill the human in front of her, not caring if the attack killed herself as well. Before either could react, an ice beam hit the Tyranitar in the mouth, causing the hyper beam to self-destruct, flinging the dark rock type across the room, sliding ironically enough back into its cell. Lenora, however, was not so lucky, flung across the room like a ragdoll hit by a Tauros. Before any injury could occur, the Mawile jumped to Lenora, catching her and putting her gently on the floor. Lenora regained her footing and walked over to the Tyranitar, sighing in frustration. "You continue to be stubborn, even in the face of defeat. Even your most powerful attack was countered by a simple ice beam, and yet you continue to fight. You've fallen from grace, but you can come back from this. All you need to do, is submit." The Tyranitar looked at her with a soul-piercing gaze. It was these people that her baby Lavatar was dead. Her baby couldn't handle the torture they put it through. The Pokémon, ignoring the pain shooting through her body, lifted itself up, slowly but surely. "She will make them pay." The mouth dropped open, and Hyper Beam was charged. Even if it meant killing herself, every person in this building would pay. With her baby gone, nothing else mattered. Nothing did. If she fires that, it could bring the whole building down on top of everyone. Lenora though as she quickly turned the dial in the opposite direction and quickly pressed the button. The lights on the collar around Tyranitar's neck turned purple, before a burning sensation shot through its body. The pain was too much, and the Tyranitar dropped the attack, its pain tolerance clearly pushed past its limit. "This was brought upon you, only by yourself. Only you could have stopped this," Lenora said as she turned back on the laser grid. "You have one more day before you lose your usefulness. I'll be back tomorrow." She turned the dial a little more, and the collar turned red. The Tyranitar collapsed, unconscious. As her and Mawile walked out of the room, she turned back and stated, "Only those who understand their place can survive. You must be strong to move forward. This disgusting world has no place for those who defy." She turned into the next cell block and stared at the Machamp, which was held in the same state of stasis. "Soon this ugly world will finally change, and my master will lead this new world." Lenora deactivated the laser grid and stepped inside the cell. She twisted the dial on her wrist, tuning it to Machamp's collar. As she finished with it, the Pokémon awoke, slowly lifting itself up with its outstanding physique. It glared at the model and her Pokémon like a certain rock, dark Pokémon, but it had no fight in its eyes. The Pokémon within it, the indomitable spirit of the fighting type was dead. "Those eyes, they have no light or soul in them," Lenora thought as she smirked at the docile fighting type. Machamp looked away from her in humility and submission. Now that's a much more beautiful sight than that hideous defiance that Tyranitar had. The loss of light showing just how empty that life will make you feel. After close studying and recording of the Machamp, who didn't even lift a finger in resistance, even when its shackles were removed, Lenora nodded. As she turned her back, she called out. One of you two Spiritums be a dear and take Machamp to the training centers. He's ready. As she walked to the next cell, pink hair and lab coat swaying, the dark ghost type appeared into the cell as it called out to Machamp. The fighting type stood and wordlessly followed Spiritomb, its face refusing to look anyone in the eye. So Machamp has successfully been broken down and Tyranitar still needs some work, she said as her Mawile simply nodded. But her converging will be within the week, she doesn't have much hope left. Her near-suicidal attempt just a little while ago shows just how near the breaking point she is. The master will be pleased with these results. Now let's see how our special guest is doing. She walked towards the one cage that looked slightly different than the others. The inside of the cell was made from pure black metal. Each wall and corner had a steel chain protruding from it as they locked in the center. In the center of the cell, unconscious on the floor, was the Pokemon that could travel through time itself, Celebi. Hey, can't believe the boss was able to get his hands on you, she chuckled mentally. Guess I shouldn't be too surprised at this anymore, due to the amazing specimens he's collected prior. She walked past the cell and the second Spiritomb. She opened a panel hidden into the wall and entered a code into the device that was hidden behind. The wall opened up, and she walked into a huge new room, separated by a very thick transparent wall. As Lenora walked in, the scientists within saluted her appearance. On the other side of the wall, was another part of the room that went amazingly deep, completely filled with water. As Lenora walked to one of the computers, a scientist rushed out of the way, clearing the way for her. After typing another code, a panel on the desk opened up, and a blue light filled the room. The blue orb was being scanned by the computer, and Lenora placed her hand on it. As she felt the orb, a smile slowly spread across her face. I can't wait to show this specimen the truth of this ugly world that it had helped create. I'll show you the truth, Kyogre. With Ash. Ash stood to the sidelines as he watched Molly and Serena happily playing with the baby Pokemon in the clearing. Every Pokemon seemed to take an instant liking to the girls, no matter what they were. Beside him was Gardevoir, Glaceon, and Leavanny, who forgave Ash almost immediately for what had happened. The little ones really like them, Gardevoir said happily as she watched the group playing. Shows how good of a person those two are for that to happen. Indeed, Leavanny stated as she smiled brightly, being something of an older sister to the children. I'm glad to see them so comfortable and having fun. Ash nodded with a smile before he sensed a new signature enter his clearing. He looked to the shade of a nearby tree and smiled wide. You don't have to stay hidden, buddy. Those girls are good people and won't mind you. For a moment, nothing happened as everyone gazed at the tree. Serena and Molly were confused who Ash was talking to until they noticed the shape emerging from the shadow of the tree. Their eyes widened when it fully emerged with its lone red, glowing eye. What emerged was the legendary Pokemon of nightmares, darkness, and horror, Darkrai. That's a Darkrai. Selena thought to herself as she looked at the dark type with slight fear. I hear that it can cause nightmares to anyone sleeping near it. But why would it be here? See partner, Ash said as he walked up to Darkrai, who kept his distance from the two girls. No one is here to hurt you. They are good people and close friends. All Darkrai did was nod, but it stayed to the shadow of the tree, preferring his position in the shade and away from the girls. Ash sighed, as he moved Darkrai from the shade of the tree, but there with him for comfort. I understand that you have a distrust of people after what happened, but these two are extremely trustworthy. I promise they won't do anything to hurt you, and I'm really sure they want to be your friend. Darkrai gazed at Ash for a moment, before he looked back at the girls with a hint of worry. If you say so, Ash, Darkrai said in a nervous tone before floating slowly forward, followed by a smiling Ash. All the Pokemon smiled happily and greeted the nervous pitch-black Pokemon, who nodded back as the others. When he reached the other two humans, his nerves seemed to die as he couldn't even find the voice to greet them. In fact, he looked at the ground as he had trouble looking at them while they were so close to him. Hello, the legendary Pokemon tried to greet them. I'm Darkrai, a Pokemon under Ash. It's nice to meet you. He said rather hesitantly, and he failed to keep eye contact, instead establishing it with the ground. Darkrai flinched when he noticed that youngest stepped forward. He had to fight every instinct to run, but was still troubled over his trust in humans. The only thing that truly helped was that Ash was around and that he trusted his trainer. He was caught off guard when he felt the young human girl hug him and squeal in what seemed to be joy. "You are so cool." Molly yelled happily as she looked to her brother figure. "Where did you find such a cool Pokemon like him? And you look so strong too." She took a step back and smiled happily at Darkrai, taking note of the surprised look on his face. "My name is Molly Hale and I'm a Pokemon trainer like Ash. It's very nice to meet you." Darkrai had no idea what to say to the young girl, but caught more movement at the corner of his eye. He looked to the direction with curiosity in his gaze as he saw that it was Serena smiling warmly at him with her hands waving at him. "Hello Darkrai," the young performer greeted the dark type. "My name is Serena, a close friend of Ash's. It's very nice to meet you." Darkrai had trouble responding as he was nervous around any humans that wasn't his trainer. He turned his gaze towards his trainer who met his gaze and nodded with a small smile. The pitch-black Pokemon didn't hesitate to separate from the human girls and leave by phasing into the ground. "Ah, did he have to leave so soon?" Molly said, disappointed that Darkrai left without saying a word. "Was it something we said?" Ash gave Molly a sad look as he shook his head. "No, it wasn't you guys. It's just how Darkrai is around people he doesn't know," the young champion as he looked around with his aura. "The poor guy had a really rough life and because of that, he has major trust issues. The only reason he didn't leave right away when you all arrived was because I was here the whole time. You hugging him the way you did Molly, was a huge improvement on his part." "What happened exactly?" Serena asked in worry for the Dark-type legend. She has met her fair share of distrusting Pokemon over the years, but Darkrai was downright terrified of them. "It's a story I can't tell you without his permission," Ash replied with crossed arms over his chest. "It's a long, sad story to be honest. Maybe someday we will be able to tell you, but he will need to be comfortable around you guys before that could happen." The girls nodded their heads in understanding, not wanting to seem too pushy with his business. Ash's danger sense went off as he jumped back in time to avoid a flying kick that was aimed for his head. The Kalos champion continued to dodge and block kicks from his assailant before grabbing the person's leg and tossing the attacker away. "Seriously Mia, just greet me like a damn normal person," Ash reprimanded, but the smirk on his face showed he was merely messing with her and wasn't bothered by it. Mia smiled happily as she couldn't help but bouncing on the balls of her feet with her hands behind her back. She then took off at high speeds, running towards Ash in a blur. Not sensing an attack, Ash was surprised to find himself in a tight hug from his elite as she giggled happily into his chest. Her joy was so contagious, he couldn't help but chuckle as he returned the hug. "Whoa now flat chest," he said as he pat her head and rubbed it affectionately. "What's got you into such a good mood Mia? I haven't seen you this happy in a long while." After finally gaining some control of her giggling, she looked at Ash with a huge smile. "I did it," she cheered out through her giggling. "I beat Bruno, one of the world's fighting-type Pokemon experts. I am one step closer to my goal. I can't believe it, I'm so happy. I just can't contain it." Ash's eyes widened at her words. "Wow, that's great news, Mia." Ash cheered with a smile as he hugged the redhead and spun her around. This caused another fit of happy giggles from her as her smile widened and returned the hug tighter. "This news deserving of a celebration in my opinion. Let's all go out to eat anywhere that you would like, it will be my treat." Mia's eyes sparkled in joy at his offer as she hugged her friend tighter. "Thank you so much Ash. You're the absolute best," she yelled out as she jumped up and down in joy. "Oh yeah, don't tell Ty yet as I want to be the one to tell him myself." "Sure thing you little nuisance," he said with a smirk as he fixed up her hair so it's out of her face. "Why don't you get yourself situated while I gather everyone else together?" Mia nodded happily as she hugged Ash one more time and kissed his cheek before running off. "See you back here in a bit then Ashy." She waved over her shoulder. Ash shook his head at her as he turned back to the girls behind him and smiled at them. "Would you ladies like to join us for the celebration?" Ash asked as both girls thought about it and nodded with a smile. "Awesome. Let's go get my other elites and a few others since this is a big day for Mia. Now she's closer to her dream of being the world's #1 expert on fighting-type Pokemon." "Hey Gardevoir." The psychic, fairy type appeared next to him in a flash of light, a graceful smile on her face. Can I help you, Ash? She asked with a gentle smile. I'm going to head out for a bit and I have no clue when I will be back, he said as he crossed his arms across his chest. Could you do me a favor and watch everyone for me until I get back? Of course I don't mind, Ash, she replied with a nod. Tell Mia congratulations on my behalf. Ash nodded as he left with Serena and Molly in tow. Now he just had to find the others so they can get this party underway. As Ash made his through the forest, he addressed his aura partner who was walking beside him. Lucario, you go find Jacob and Erica for me. I am sure they would love to join us for Mia's celebration. Lucario ran off without a word to carry out his order. Ash looked to Pikachu who jumped onto his left shoulder and looked to his friend. Who else do you think we should invite to our little party, buddy? The mouse Pokémon thought it over as he tilted his head to the side. Maybe Sathina and Annabelle would like to join us. Pikachu replied. It also works out for us because you need to talk to them about shadows since we haven't had the chance to, or at the least set up a meeting time. Ash nodded due to Pikachu's reasoning as he began to attempt to locate the mentioned people's aura. After a few more moments, Ash got a lock on Annabelle's aura signature and it seemed she was with both Paul and another person he doesn't recognize. Ash made his way towards the signatures and eventually found himself at a place called the Miltank's Cafe. Quickly entering the building, he looked towards the signatures he followed and gave a small smile at the talking group. He had gained a small blush on his face when he laid eyes on the person with the unknown aura signature. Pikachu noticed the blush and chuckled at it as he looked back to the person. The unknown signature belonged to a gorgeous woman that had a fierce and wild air to her. She wasn't a very tall woman, about average height, a good head shorter than Ash. She had short black hair that was cut to be at chin level. She had deep red eyes that seemed to glow with power and had a sparkle of excitement. She wore a ragged white cloak with black shoulder pads, along with gray shorts that had a red belt serving as its belt. She wore a tight black top that had two red crescent moons on her moderate chest and knee-length gray socks with open-toed gray boots. She had two spherical red earrings, as well as a blue mega anklet on her left leg which Ash was shocked to notice had a Salamancyte. In her arms was a Whismur that was cuddled into her chest. Serena took note of Ash's expression and puffed up her cheeks in a pout, annoyed and angry at the girl giving her crush such a reaction. Pretty or not, Ash should not be looking at her like that, she thought to herself with slightly clenched fists. Unless it's towards to me. Pikachu chuckled at his friend's reaction, not too sure how to feel about Ash's reaction only because he didn't know the girl. Ketchum, over here. Paul knocked Ash from his thoughts as he called out to his old rival from Sinnoh. This got Annabelle to look up excitedly towards Ash, though her smile became more strained when she saw Serena being so close to Ash. Hey Paul, Annabelle, Ash greeted the two siblings with a warm smile that made Annabelle blush. He turned to the new girl with a questioning look and much more control of his blush. And who's your friend here? Hello there. My name is Zinnia. The young girl introduced herself with an excited grin. You're Ash Ketchum, the champion of the Kalos region, right? You're also Paul's rival from when he traveled the Sinnoh region, correct? With each new question, the exotic women leaned closer to Ash as her excitement got the better of her. Ash had a slight blush dust his cheeks due to their close proximity, becoming nervous as he gazed into her eyes. Yes, my name is Ash. It is nice to meet you, Zinnia. He stretched his hand out for a handshake that Zinnia happily returned with a firm grip. Then you must be an extremely strong trainer along with very powerful Pokémon. She yelled with a moral smirk that Ash found oddly alluring. I can't wait to see your bond with your team personally. In fact, why don't we find an open arena and you can show me right now? Ash rose his eyebrow before he quickly took notice of the Salamancyte that was secured to her ankle by an ankle bracelet. So, she has a mega stone as well and it seems to belong to a Salamence. Definitely a powerful choice as long as it isn't just for show. So, Mr. Champion, Zinnia continued as she crossed her arms under her chest. Let's have a rough, tough battle using our powerful bonds between over Pokémon. Mine against yours. Ash turned his gaze towards his old rival that merely gave him a teasing grin. Is she always like this? Ash asked him mentally, a bit caught off guard since Mia was the only girl he knew that was this wild about all forms of battle. As if sensing his thoughts, Paul nodded at Ash as if to answer his question. She is a battler down to her very core, Paul said as he caught his sister glaring at how close Zinnia was to her crush. In fact, so were the other two girls that were with Ash. She is an extremely strong trainer and her Pokemon are very tough to battle. She loves battling strong trainers that she sees as strong and could give her a challenge. It's how we met when I visited Annabelle and Zinnia had just finished beating her in a battle. Ash was surprised and impressed since Annabelle and her Pokemon are no joke and are an extremely powerful team. Ash was getting excited at the idea of battling a powerful opponent since he still loved a tough battle and has yet to have a challenger make him use his more powerful team seriously. The only one he used his stronger Pokemon against was Gary and that was extremely one-sided. Ash quickly calmed down though as he didn't have time for a battle right now. As much as I would love to battle right now, Ash said as he took a small step back to gain some distance. I sadly don't have the time to battle you right now. I actually came here for Paul and Annabelle. This caused the two siblings to look at Ash curiously while Zinnia pouted at not getting her battle. You see, one of my Elite Four members has just finished battling and beating one of her icons in a battle, Ash explained. Mia wants to be the world's #1 fighting type specialist and top martial artist. By beating Bruno in a battle, she is one step closer to that dream, so I figured a celebration is in order. Would you guys like to join us? Of course. Annabelle said happily, wanting to use this chance to spend more time with Ash. I would love to go, it sounds like it could be a ton of fun. Plus, I am interested in meeting your other elite members. Paul crossed his arms with an uninterested look on his face as he scowled at the Kalos champion. And why would I care about some girl's accomplishment, he said bluntly. I'll just be wasting my time when I could use that time to train my Pokemon for tomorrow's battle. Ah, come on Paul, Annabelle said as she looked at him in slight annoyance. Give yourself and your Pokemon a rest for the night. Plus, it would be cool to meet the other elites for his region. It will be a fun time Paul, Ash said as he looked to his annoyed rival. Plus, if I know Mia like I think I do then you will definitely get a battle in. Especially with the place that I have in mind for the celebration. This got Paul's attention at the prospect of getting a battle with a powerful opponent. Mia is a battle fanatic, more than both of us. The idea to have a chance to have a battle between him and a region's best was too much for Paul to resist. Fine, I'll go and attend the stupid party of yours, but it better not be a waste of my time. Yeah, I promise it won't be Paul, Ash replied with a chuckle as he looked to the snickering Zinnia. If you would like to, then you are more than welcome to join us too. Zinnia thought it over for a few seconds before she nodded with a smile. Sure, it sounds like a good time, Zinnia replied. Where do you want us to meet up? Meet by the Pokemon Center in like 20 minutes at the earliest, Ash replied as Pikachu nodded. I still got to pick up the others and change out of this old thing. As for your attire, you don't have to wear anything formal. The others nodded as he pet Pikachu's head and made his way out. See you all later. As Ash exited the building and made his way out, he stretched out his aura in another attempt to find the next person to invite. He smiled when he singled out a calm, yet powerful flow of aura that he recognized instantly. He quickened his pace using the aura he channeled into his legs, increasing his speed and becoming a bit of a blur to the people around him. Pikachu laughed as his best friend ran at a good pace. Go Ash! Pikachu cheered as he laughed while gripping Ash's shoulder tightly. Use quick attack. Ash chuckled at the yellow mouse's joke as he tightened his muscles and ran at a faster pace. I'm not going to lie, I miss using my aura for things like this, Ash thought to himself as he was almost upon his destination. It really does feel good to be able to let my aura loose so freely and just enjoy the privileges this gift allows me. The last time I did was when I was training with Zion. I'm going to need to find an opportunity to really cut loose. As the young champion began to slow down, he couldn't help the happy smile that adorned his face when he saw Cynthia within his sights. It didn't surprise Ash that the beautiful champion of Sinnoh was at an ice cream stand eating a cone with 3 different flavored scoops on top of each other. He had to laugh at the relieved look on the stand owner's face. Cynthia, hey Cynthia, he called out, getting the blonde woman's attention. The moment Cynthia saw Ash, she smiled joyfully with a slight blush to her cheeks as she waved at him. Hello Ash, how are you doing this evening? I am doing well Cynthia, Ash replied looking her over and taking notice of her teal blue top that showed how fit she really was. Her hair was in the usual style along with white khakis that fit her slender legs tightly. Arceus, she is beautiful in whatever she wears. I was wondering if you were busy later today. Cynthia was caught off guard by the question and blushed a deep red while nearly dropping her ice cream cone. Is he asking me out on a date this time? She was so lost in thought that she almost forgot to answer his question, but she was able to compose herself. I am free for the rest of the day, she replied as calmly as she could. Ash gave the Sinnoh champion a slightly concerned gaze as he noticed how red her face was getting. I hope she isn't getting sick, Ash thought to himself before he responded. Awesome, do you think that you could meet me by the Pokemon Center in a little bit? This really is a date. Cynthia mentally squealed in joy as she gave her crush a warm smile. Sure, I can meet you there no problem, she said warmly, trying to control her excitement. That's great. Ash replied happily. Mia will love the chance to battle Cynthia's Lucario or try to find tips on its fighting style knowing her. I will be there soon as I just got to take care of a few things first. And you can wear what you have on already, it's perfect actually. Bye Cynthia, I'll see you in a little bit. Oh, and the others there I will be over soon. Ash quickly ran off before Cynthia could respond to his request. Wait, others. Cynthia thought to herself as the image in her mind of her and Ash at a restaurant while on a nice date began to shatter. Running a bit faster, Ash sensed that he was nearing the strong aura signatures of his next two invites. He quickly ended up at a training gym that was both wide and tall, at least 2 stories. In the decent-sized field of the gym, Ash was able to see different fighting-type Pokemon and trainers working out or training. Ash entered the field and made his way to the front door, which were also tall, like one would usually find at a dojo. He nudged the door with one hand and quickly realized that they were thick and heavy. So the doors are some sort of test, Ash thought to himself as Pikachu yawned bored at this test as they had gone several of these types of tests before. You need to have strength and a strong enough core to enter. Simple enough to be honest. The young champion shrugged as he ignored some of the mocking looks the others in the yard were giving. He put more force in his arm and pushed once more while the doors opened with a minimum amount of effort. This made some of the muscle heads and Pokemon to look at him in surprise at the fact that he did it with no problem while they couldn't even budge the doors. And they had bigger muscles. As Ash entered the gym, Pikachu snickered at the shocked look of all muscleheads' faces. Yeah, my bro has more strength in his body than all of you put together, Pikachu laughed mentally. As soon as the door closed, Ash was greeted to a sight of strong martial arts trainers working on all kinds of exercises. There was even an imitation of a waterfall that trainers and Pokemon were using for meditation training. An exercise he had done many times before with his Lucario, with a few extra add-ons. Ash noticed to the side was an old man in a training GI and sitting in a seizure posture. To the sides and behind him was a Hitmonlee to his right, Hitmonchan to his left, and a Hitmontop behind him. While these 3 were interesting and definitely strong in their own rights, it was the last Pokemon that got Ash's attention the most. Sitting in front of the elder man was a Mienshao that had a dangerous glint in its eyes that narrowed at him. That Mienshao is definitely powerful, Ash thought as he made his way to the older man since the people he wanted to talk to were upstairs. It is definitely champion level, elite level at the least. Its aura level is off the charts and dense while concentrated. It would take Mia's Hitmontop at her best to win. Ash stood in front of the Mienshao and the old man before bowing to them in respect. Master Goldman, it's an honor to meet you. Goldman Sakura, a martial arts master that shook the martial arts world of Pokemon. He and his Pokemon had taken the top spot in almost every fighting tournament for 7 years. He's also successfully taken down over 60 dojos all over the Kanto and Johto regions. Ah, the honor is all mine, Goldman replied with a grandfatherly smile as he gave Ash a slight bow. It's an honor to have the champion of the Kalos region enter my humble abode. May I ask the nature of your visit, young champion? I was made aware that a friend of mine has come here and I needed to speak with them, Ash responded calmly, taking note of Mienshao keeping its eyes locked on Pikachu while the yellow rat Pokemon returned the locked gaze. They were not outside, so I assumed that they would be in here. Well, You were able to open those doors on your own, Goldman said with a small smile. So, you are free to look for your friends as long as you don't disturb the other trainers. Ash bowed his head in thanks before turning around and making his way upstairs. That Mianxiao was really strong, such a dense aura it possesses. I would love to battle it if I could, it will be a tough opponent. Ash was shaken from his thoughts as he entered another training level that had training equipment for the body. He saw Pokémon like Machamp use contraptions and machines to restrict body movements and air flow, making it tougher for the Pokémon to use their full strength, in turn making them stronger. Looking towards the far left wall, Ash took notice of one of the people he was looking for, which was a muscular man that was a good head taller than himself. He wore a dirty white training gi with a black belt on his waist. He wore no shoes on his big feet and 2 black wristbands on his arms. His hair was black and spiky. The man was cheering on his Hitmonlee and Machamp, who were both doing their best at lifting the weights and performing the exercises. This man was Bruno of the Kanto Elite Four and one of the world's best fighting-type specialists. Ash walked up to the man with a smile, having met him from his travels in the past. I'm sure Mia would love another all-out battle with him and his Pokémon, Ash thought as he neared the man. Hey Bruno, it's been a long time, hasn't it? Bruno turned around and smiled when he saw that it was Ash that called out to him. Ah, Ash. It has been a long while. Congratulations are in order, though late as it may be, for your rise to champion. You have grown strong since our last meeting. Ash smiled and nodded towards the Fighting Elite Four member. Yes, I must say that I am very proud of the results of me and my Pokémon's training. Even now, we are only going to grow stronger with every battle. Bruno nodded in approval at Ash's pride, not seeing anything wrong since he has proven his strength. So Ash, are you here to train with your Pokémon? Actually, no. Ash replied with a head shake. I came here looking for you Bruno, and another friend that I believe is on the roof for whatever reason. There is a battlefield on the roof, so your friend must be having a battle, Bruno replied as he crossed his arms. Ash nodded as he looked towards the staircase. To make a long story short, I'm holding a celebration for Mia later today due to her battle and victory against you, Ash explained as he went into champion mode. I know it sounds aimless, but she wishes to be the world's #1 fighting-type specialist, and you are one of her greatest idols. Would you please come and join us for the celebration? The man thought it over before giving Ash a warm smile and nod of the head. Ash returned the smile and told him to meet him by the Pokémon Center as the others will be there as well. I will meet you there momentarily as I have one more person to meet. As Bruno nodded, Ash took off up the stairs and made it to the roof of the building as a battle just finished taking place from the amount of aura thrown around that lingered in the air still. On the ground was an unconscious Hitmonchan and in front of it was a powerful Lucario in its Mega Evolution state. Its hardened eyes slowly began to relax as its body lost the tensity in its muscles. The champion had a bright smile on his face as he could just feel the powerful bond and aura that just wafted from Lucario and connected with its trainer. A bright light shone around the Mega Pokémon as it shrunk down and took its original form. Great job Lucario! A young female voice called out happily as woman skated toward the Lucario who gave her a light fist bump. We really are the absolute best team ever, Lucario. No one can stop us. This young woman was Karina, the fighting-type gym leader of the Kalos region. She was a good friend between him and Mia, for more obvious reasons. Her and her father are the main reason that he has essentially mastered Mega Evolution. He studied under her dad and Professor Sycamore as he learned to harness the power that Mega Evolution granted. It was due to this, that Ash and Karina spent a lot of time together, whether it was training or just plain relaxing. After Karina congratulated her opponent who returned it, Ash walked over and called out to the gym and Lucario, getting all three to turn to him. Lucario smiled and gave a slight bow in greeting while Karina smiled brightly and collided into Ash with a tight hug. The man smirked at the action and the man made his way out. Neither noticed the man's eyes turned red as left through the door. Ash, hi, how are you? What took you so long to greet me, you jerk? She asked in a more teasing tone than angry one as she hadn't seen Ash in months since he vanished to MT. Silver for further training due to its level of difficulty. She was playing but she was annoyed that he took this long to just say hi to her. She, along with a few others, were worried that Ash may have gotten hurt or maybe forgot about them. She would be lying if she said that she hadn't gained feelings for her region's champion. He was always so sweet to her and helped her out with her training to become stronger and more connected with her Pokemon. He was childish, in a cute way, that always made her laugh. But if it was needed, he could become more dominant and powerful, which would send a shiver down her spine in joy. She liked the more take charge and dominate types, sue her. I am doing quite well, Karina, Ash replied happily as he returned the hug. I'm glad to find out that you and most of my region gym leaders are still in the tournament. It was true, as Ash tries to keep an eye out on his region in total, gym leaders and elites, and it would seem that the Kalos region has only lost two of its gym leaders, being Viola and Ramos. This was a good thing, as it showed how tough they all are and will gain more trainers to travel and challenge the league to gain the title. That also means more tourists to visit the region known to be powerful, and that means more revenue for the region. Basically, the better they do, then the better Kalos does as a whole. Karina nodded and crossed her arms as she smirked at him. Yeah, the trainers here are tough, as they are all giving it all they got on the battlefield. Me and Lucario had to go all out in our last battle, as the guy was super tough. His Vaporeon nearly won, but we showed our will to win and came out on top. Well, I am glad to hear that you all are enjoying yourselves, Ash replied, looking at Karina with warm amusement at her joy and energy. Either way, I have come to invite you out to a small celebration. Ash explained to her the reason for the whole thing as Karina smiled and nodded. I would love to go, Karina replied, moving her ponytail out of her face. This is a big deal, especially for Mia. I can't wait to congratulate her on her hard work. In fact, I think I know the perfect celebratory gift. I gotta call Gramps so he can send it over. That's fine, Ash replied. You have time and you only have to be semi-casual. So, you do you. I'll see ya in a bit, as I have to go and get ready myself. Karina nodded as she hugged Ash tightly once more before skating off, her mind giddy at being to hug her crush so much. Ash was none the wiser to her blushing, happy face. Well, that should be everyone, Ash thought as he left, taking note that Bruno had already left. As Ash reached the exit, he was stopped by the dojo master's Mienshao, who gave Ash a challenging glare. Ash chuckled lightly, feeling no malice from the silent glare. He only felt the desire to face a powerful opponent that Ash himself could understand. Sorry, Mienshao, Ash said with an apologetic smile. I have to take care of a few important things today, so I don't have time to battle you. At this, Ash gained a more challenging smirk. But I will definitely be back for a battle against you when I have the time. Mienshao stared into Ash's eyes for a few moments before it gave Ash a nod and left without a word. Ash quickly left afterwards, making his way to his hotel room to change his clothing. Pokemon Center. Ash walked into the center feeling much better in his Aura Guardian uniform. While I don't mind my casual clothing, it just doesn't fit who I am like my battle clothes, he thought to himself as he tightened his gloves. I am more comfortable being my guardian self. As he entered, he couldn't help but smile at the people who were there for his elite's celebration getting along. He saw his elites, excluding Tai and Mia, talking to Delia and Serena. Miette was next to Serena, chipping into the conversation here and there. Ash saw Cynthia, who had to calm down after her misunderstanding of this meeting being a date, talking to an awestruck Molly Hale, who was most likely asking for battling tips. Bruno, who was wearing tan slacks and a red dress-up shirt that looked like it wouldn't last long on him. Sitting on a bench nearby was Karina, who was drinking water as she leaned back. She was wearing a red shirt that had black belt going around her stomach. She wore a blue skirt that had black stockings going up her legs. What made him laugh was that she was still wearing her usual skates and helmet and the usual ponytail. Ash also took note of Paul, who was wearing his usual clothing along with Annabelle and Zinnia, both wearing the same outfits from earlier. They were all sitting at a table near the front desk, talking to each other. Ash walked further and spoke out to get their attention. Hey everyone, I am glad to see that you all were able to make it, Ash said as everyone turned to him, making some of the girl blush brightly at his guardian attire. I know it was a bit last minute for you all, so I am happy to see that you all are here. This is a great occasion for my friend, and I wanted her to know that I am really proud of her hard work and the skilled trainer that she has become since we first met. Before Ash could continue, he was nearly knocked over by a strong force that hit him on the back. He felt the strong arms of the culprit wrap around his torso and hug him tightly. "Ah Ashy, you're so sweet." The culprit, who turned out to be Mia, said happily as she nuzzled Ash's back. "Thank you for those wonderful words." Ash chuckled as he turned around and hugged his elite member back. "Any time, but you don't have to be so excited over nothing, you crazy girl," Ash said with a smile. Ash looked up from his hug and saw Zion and Ty enter the center, Zion having a wide smile on his face. Zion was wearing his usual outfit while Ty had his hands in his pocket. "Glad you both decided to dress up," Ash teased with a smile. Ty smirked back as he gestured to his outfit. "What? This old thing," he replied. "I had decided to look fancy for the celebratory get-together. Got to look my best after all." Ash chuckled as Zion laughed lightly at his friends' little banter with each other. While they laughed, Alex ran up to Mia and gave her a hug. Ash looked to everyone else who were looking at them, before smiling brightly towards Mia. "Almost everyone is here, now we just need one more person, but first things first," he pulled out a black cloth and handed it to Mia. "You must wear this blindfold tightly so it remains a surprise." The young elite looked confused before complying to the request and put on the blindfold. "Okay, now what?" "You keep quiet and keep the blindfold on," Ash said with a chuckle. A small, bright light got his attention from towards the door, and from that light came Jacob and Erica. Next to them was Mike, Mia's mother, Lola, and Ash's Gardevoir. "And thank you for the pickup, Gardevoir." The psychic fairy merely smiled warmly at her master before she looked around at the gathered people. "Is this everyone, Master?" "Yes, it is," Ash replied as he nodded to his Pokémon. "I figured we could go to her favorite restaurant, if you don't mind giving us a little bit of help." "Of course, I don't mind, but I will have to make multiple trips," Gardevoir replied. "I'm not skilled enough to teleport this many people at once." "Don't worry, Gardevoir," Ash replied with a smile before he spoke the rest through their link. "Mewtwo is outside waiting on my signal. Your teleport is just for show, to be honest." Gardevoir giggled at Ash's deception and nodded. Turning back to everyone else, Ash addressed them. "Everyone, I need you to all gather together so we can head out. We are all going to teleport to our destination with Gardevoir's help." They all did as told, with Cynthia and Roxy pressing themselves into Ash's sides. Ash had to fight back a blush at the feeling of their breasts on his body. Neither noticed the jealous looks they received from some of the other girls, nor the knowing smirks directed at them from Ash's sister and Erica. "Use teleport," Ash commanded, and Gardevoir nodded. Her eyes glowed, which was followed everyone being covered by a white aura, before they all vanished in a flash of bright light. In the sky outside, hidden behind the clouds, was Mewtwo. His eyes shined blue, before fading down. The legendary clone of Mew floated there as he gave a small smile, before his expression suddenly turned serious.